Good evening. Boy, it almost broke. Good evening. Welcome to the meeting of the Oceanside City Council. This is a meeting for January 25th, 2023. A roll call, please. I'm going to go ahead and let me do this. I'm going to call this meeting to order now. And roll call, please.
Mayor Sanchez.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Keim. Councilmember Joyce. Present. Councilmember Robinson. Present. Councilmember Weiss.
Here.
All right. Thank you. Please rise for the invocation. Tonight we have Father Peter Kerwin from the Historic Mission San Luis Rey here with us. It's actually a really exciting news about the mission that we'll be hearing about shortly after the invocation. Father Peter?
This is a Franciscan benediction. May God bless you with discomfort at easy answers, half-truths, and superficial relationships, so that you may live deep within your heart. May God bless you with anger at injustices, oppression, and exploitation of people, so that you may work for justice, freedom, and peace. May God bless you with tears to shed for those who suffer from pain, rejection, starvation, and war, so that you may reach out your hand to comfort them and to turn their pain into joy. And may God bless you with enough foolishness to believe that you can make a difference in this world, so that what you do, others claim cannot be done. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Father Peter. Please remain standing and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready to begin? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one
nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you. And we have a wonderful, wonderful presentation about the historic mission. And if Gwen Grimes can come up, along with Captain Mel Vernon of the San Luis Rey Band of Mission Indians, come on up here. Yeah, we'll be able to get what you have. But great news.
Yes.
Earlier, there was a big media event about the historic mission, and I'm going to let Gwen let you know what the big thing is. So, Gwen.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. And thank you for coming to our big kickoff last week and bringing the proclamation. It was exciting for us to have you there and exciting for us to see how excited you were. So thank you very much. As Mayor Sanchez said, I'm Gwen Grimes. I'm the Executive Director at Mission San Luis Rey. Our exciting year ahead is due to the fact that it is the 225th anniversary of Mission San Luis Rey. Thank you. So the mission was founded on June 13th, 1798 by Father Fermin Lasuen. That's a really hard name to say. Founded by Franciscan missions and built by the Luiseño people, the native land that the mission is on. It is still a Franciscan mission today. So we have 15 friars who live at Mission San Luis Rey. And really our job as folks who work at the mission, feels like we live there, who work at the mission is really to carry on the Franciscan values and the Franciscan charism to the people in our community. And we really, our Franciscan values are what guide us every day, what help us to make decisions, and really lead us to how we treat people really as brothers and sisters for anybody who comes to the mission, whether they're a big donor, whether they're just coming to the church to pray. We really see everybody as our brother and sister and want to treat them with dignity and respect. And so because of our Franciscan values, we wanted to share our Franciscan hospitality with everybody in the community of Oceanside and beyond. Really, the mission for us is the community, is part of our community and been here for 225 years. And so we wanted to share that with you. And so we put a committee of folks together, including Mel and Diana from the Luiseño tribe, one of our Franciscan friars, and some of our staff members. And so we put a year of celebration together. We really wanted to celebrate the whole year with lectures, looking at kind of the history, starting with the Luiseño people and moving on, through our history. And so in addition to some of the normal events that we have every year, we hold the Blessing of the Animals, as some of you have probably come to, and a big celebration on the feast day of San Luis Rey, the patron saint of Mission San Luis Rey, and our beautiful Christmas concert. So in addition to those, we have, as I said, a series of lectures. One which is this Saturday afternoon with Mel Vernon, and so he'll be talking about the history of the Luiseño people, followed by a beautiful flute concert of Native American flute players in February. And so a few more lectures throughout the year about Franciscan history, and then a lovely, lovely concert in May, a candlelight concert. I don't know if anybody have seen any advertisement for the beautiful candlelight concerts that are being held in different historic buildings around the city, and so we'll bring that to Mission San Luis Rey in May. And then we decided this was such a big, important year that we needed to bring back two events that people really loved and have been asking us to bring back, and for many reasons had not. The first one is Fiesta, and so that will be held the first weekend after the actual date of June 13th, so the weekend of June 16th, 17th, and 18th. As part of Fiesta, lots of fun family activities. We have a Fiesta Queen, and our own Mayor Sanchez was a princess 2 years?
73, 74.
Yes. Yes. So we're hoping she'll stop by and maybe crown the new queen. So we have a fun weekend planned. And then the second event that people love and have been asked us to bring back is the Heritage Ball. And so that's a big fancy gala in August. So again, we really wanted to put things together that were family friendly, that we could invite the community to come to the mission. And so we feel like we've done a good job of really putting together things that anybody would love, family friendly things and educational and a fancy gala. So I want to invite all of you to come to the mission throughout the year. You can check on our website for dates, times, buy tickets for events, and as I said, some free events as well. So I hope to see you all there. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Well, I think Gwen took all the good stuff, right? So, but acknowledging that the Luiseño people were here for tens of thousands of years before for all the other events. My talk's going to be Saturday at 4 o'clock at the mission, and it's going to be pre-contact, more of a cultural sharing than as before of the culture in a tribe. And I'd like to see people down there. It's a good thing. The area that we live in, of course, is all part of the Luiseño territory, and we're still here. It seems to be the 2 words or 3 words that matter, and being on the part of the entertainment committee with my sister and Gwen and the others bringing back Fiesta. If you go on KOCT and you put in Mission Fiesta, I went on there the other day and I saw some films of my cousin being interviewed when the horses were coming down the trail. So it's definitely a part of our history here, and looking forward to participating more. And so, of course, COVID knocked our powwow out for maybe next year. But that's a good feeling to get our community back together in celebration. That's what you should do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel. And I was really proud to be included in the media event that the mission had. And I mean, the mission has always been there for our community. Back when I was, in high school, back in the 70s. Okay. Yeah, I actually took a speech class because I could not speak in front of people. I was like, I'd shake and everything. And so I got on the speech team, and one of the things you had to do was do a speech in the community, or actually two. And so I thought, why don't I do it at the mission? You know, I can come up with a speech that I could talk about what the mission means to me. So I had no idea that I would actually get to be part of the, with a queen. I didn't get queen, but I got princess, and my folks were really surprised. I was really surprised. But basically, the fiesta was always so big. It was really the main attraction in Oceanside in the 70s. The caballeros would come down on the hill, and there would be the deep pit barbecue, and I mean, there's just music and dancing and everything. So it's really great that the fiesta is coming back, and I think that you all will really, really love it. So some of the things that I mentioned about the mission, well, first of all, it's La Misión San Luis, Rey de Francia. And it is the 225th anniversary, 1798 to 2023. So it was founded, as you heard, by Padre Fermín Lasuen, and it was the largest and continues to be the largest California mission, now known as Mission San Luis Rey, the king of the missions, at its prime, covering over 950 acres. If you can imagine, the whole valley was really part of the mission. The first Peruvian pepper tree in California was planted at the mission in 1830, becoming widely planted thereafter throughout the state of California and renamed, of course, the California pepper tree. And it's still there, very, very healthy. The mission is a National Historic Landmark with its Spanish Mission Church architecture and grounds that include a museum that is visited by thousands of people every year. The mission has partnered with the Native Americans who lived in the valley for over 10,000 years, now known as the San Luis Rey Band of Mission Indians, and continues to work with the tribe in preserving the heritage and culture of this historic site. This, to celebrate the monumental milestone of its 225th anniversary, there's so many events planned, as you heard, beginning with the media event and going throughout the year to include, again, the fiesta and the Heritage Ball. The mission has been the anchor for the development of the city of Oceanside, which was incorporated, of course, in 1888, and has served as a major tourist attraction, as well as continuing to serve the parish needs of the community. So we all invite you to come out and really enjoy this really fantastic piece of history that we have here in Oceanside that really reflects our history, that reflects the culture here, and continues to be something very, very important to us. So thank you for coming and doing that presentation. And you did have something that there's going to be a mural, right?
Yeah. So thank you. So as part of the celebrations, in March, we'll be having on March 18th a beautiful art festival at the mission. And so we got a group of local artists together, and Joanne from Muramid Art and Cultural Center is a big mural person. And so she said, let's do a 225-foot mural. And so that's what we're going to do. And may I go? Yeah. So our theme of our art festival is mission, religious, and Native American. And so our mural will represent those three things, as well as yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And so this is our mural of yesterday. So kind of the beginning of the mission era with the Luiseños on the left-hand side. So the center section, which I'll show you in a minute, will be painted by professionals. But this piece and the third piece will be painted by people who come to the festival. So again, I invite you all to come and be part of painting this beautiful mural. So this is a sketch of the first section. The middle. Yes. And that will be the middle, so that will be painted by professionals, and that represents today. And then this is our hope for the future. So our hope that we are all together, so people of different cultures, together in love and peace. And so, again, we'll invite people in our community to paint this. We're hoping if the city would like to display it throughout the year, any place we could do that, and then we'll display it throughout the year at the Mission as well. So March 18th, we hope to see you there.
This is exciting. So thank you, Gwen. Thank you, Mel. Let's have a picture if we can. Yeah. Thank you. Got closed session report, Mr. Mullen.
Thank you. Council met in closed session at 3:30 to discuss the following items. Item 1, conference with labor negotiator on the status of negotiations with the Oceanside Firefighters Association and the Oceanside Fire Management Association. Item 2, conference with legal counsel on existing litigation involving the workers' compensation case of Mark Kolb. And item 3, conference with real property negotiator involving the city-owned land located at 1900 Harbor Drive North, the Jolly Roger piece. Negotiating parties, City of Oceanside and Aloha Partners. Under negotiations are price and terms for the lease of the real property. There's no reportable action under the Brown Act on any of these items tonight.
Thank you. Consent calendar items 5 through 22. Is there a motion? Do we have any requests to pull?
We have a
public?
request to pull item number 17.
Number 17. Any others? Okay. There's a motion and a second to approve the balance. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you. Number 17 is approval of a professional services agreement with NBS Government Finance Group in the amount of $155,745 to conduct a comprehensive evaluation and financial audit of the city's 11 landscape maintenance districts, appropriation of funds from each district fund and general fund unassigned fund balance, and authorization for the city manager to execute the agreement upon receipt of all supporting documents. And who is pulled it?
We have 2 speakers signed up for this item.
Okay.
Neil Hancock and Diane Evans. If you can make your way down front.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you and talk about this. Throw a couple things out here. This is our landscape district in the Marlotto Islands area. And we're one of the 11 that are up for discussion tonight. And I don't really have a problem with you doing what you're doing, but my problem is getting us to pay for it. I went through a FOIA. I got the formation documents of our actual district. There's nothing in there that says that you have an ability to conduct an audit, an analysis, or whatever you want to call it. And if that's what the intention is, which is obviously what your staff report says, I'm not sure that it's proper. And quite honestly, if the staff can't manage the district or can't conduct an analysis of the district after 35 years to determine what the appropriate staffing and manpower is, that's not on us, that's on you. It's your contract. We don't have anything to do with the contract. We just pay our own tax, property line tax that we pay ourselves. So the district over the years, you can see in the totally shaded gray one there, that's what it was in 1988. The second one with the gray area is what it is today. The yellow area is stuff that has been erased, sloughed off, or given back to us. We've taken over that. We have our own landscape contractor that comes in, and we pay for all our own water and everything else there. Another document here. This is your budget document that you did last year. They cut our water in half, and you can see $48,000 in 2021, and we're down to $25,000 in 2022. You're killing us. The current level of service and supervision is lacking. I came before you and told you that we had 3 trees to be thinned out, and it took them 6 days. They robbed us. They robbed you. They robbed us. They worked for you. I guess I'm out of time.
Thank you, Mr. Hancock. Ms. Evans?
Thank you for allowing me to speak with you all. I'm actually supportive of having this analysis done. I belong to the Mission Meadows Landscape Maintenance District, and I would like to know the costs because I feel that I understand that our tax assessments that are currently being levied are not enough to cover the maintenance of our beautiful Jeffries Ranch area. The thing that I am trying to talk to you guys about is I read the statement of work by the vendor, and I feel it's too vague. There's not enough deliverables in it to really show the city council and the city what they're going to really provide as a deliverable in the contract. I would specifically like to see future costs of the replacement of hardscape items such as fences, bushes, trees, things that die over time. I'd like to see the specific maintenance that's required and a schedule that they're basing it upon. I don't see any of that being specified as a part of the deliverables. So although I'm supportive of it, I would like it sent back so it has more defined deliverables in it. The other thing too is that our landscape maintenance district is pretty much in the red. We don't have enough money to have any maintenance done. So a lot of the things that are being done are by homeowners that are stepping in and doing things volunteer. So if we're going to end up even further in the red for this assessment, then I'd like to know specifically and what we're going to get out of it. And if it's going to make it so our landscape district can't be maintained for several more years because everything's going towards this consulting cost, then I want it to be good. And in the meanwhile, I guess volunteers in our neighborhood will just have to do their part. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have staff to address this? I believe there was a mailing to several thousand.
Yes. Honorable Mayor, Council members, Vicki Gutierrez, Real Estate Manager for the Public Works Department Property Management Division. Yes, there was a mailer that went out to over 8,000 people, all the residents within the 11 LMAD districts. So that letter went out. It was a brief letter, so it could not explain everything. The staff report is really the item that would tell you more information. It has a copy of the contract and the scope of work. To address a few of the questions or a few of the comments that were raised, the contract that we have with our landscape maintenance contract is basically funded through the revenues that we generate through the assessments from the districts. So the services that we provide are what we're able to provide based on the revenues that we have in those districts, and costs have continued to increase over time. So our scope of work has decreased in order to basically fulfill what we can fulfill with the contract. Related to, let's see, a couple other questions that they said. The deliverable for this contract, this particular contract, is our Phase 1 comprehensive evaluation and financial audit. We do have a defined scope that covers a lot of detail. It's in the staff report within the analysis section. Data research and data analysis, document and financial needs. We're basically determining the financial wherewithal of each of the districts so that we can determine a go-forward plan and make a recommendation to council. And that they are experts, MBS is experts at doing this. They've done it for many other cities.
Thank you. I hope there are opportunities. I'm hearing really concerns about costs. So if there can be an opportunity to work in drought-resistant non-invasive, zero-scaping, whatever that'll help to cut down on the maintenance and therefore cut down on costs. I think that would be great. So I'll move approval. Is there a second? Oh, Councilmember Weiss.
Thank you. I'll second the motion, but the reality is, and I agree with Mr. Hancock, particularly as it relates to Mar-a-Lago, I don't know that we need to do an audit to recognize that that district is insolvent. The reality is that district in particular should be dissolved and given back to the HOA entirely. But what's going to happen with the rest of them, to add money into adding maintenance means it's going to go to you as a ballot measure, assessment vote to raise your rates. And I suspect, as we've gone through in the past with some of these districts, if you choose to not do that, either the maintenance gets reduced further or the same thing, we have to dissolve the district. But I agree with you on Mar-a-Lago. We're past the point of rescue with, I think, with Mar-a-Lago, since the HOA was donating money to the city for several years to cover the cost of the district. But again, I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Councilmember Robinson?
Thank you. I'm just not sure that the gentleman's question or the thing that he asked about the legal authority to do this, I don't know, and maybe for our city attorney to
Part of the
answer.
contract.
Well, I think he was referring to the formation documents, but I think this is a legitimate, defensible administrative expense under the Landscape and Lighting Act. That act defines what appropriate incidental expenses are, and it includes, I think, the item that's before you.
No. Okay, no other lights, please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you. I'm going to skip over to number 28. This is the appointments to boards, commissions, and committees. I move approval. Is there a second?
Madam Mayor, we do have public on that item.
You do?
Yeah.
How many?
We have 4 speakers on item number 28.
Okay.
All right. Our first speaker is Shelley Parker, to be followed by Sandy Beal, to be followed by Linda Walshaw.
Excuse me, I signed in about 5 minutes ago.
For appointments
For
to boards and
28,
commissions, I'm
number
not talking about
28,
the other
you're
one.
moving to 28, did I hear that correctly?
Yes, 28.
Okay, and I signed in to speak on 27, 28, and 29.
Are you Deborah Watson?
Yes, I am.
You will be right after Linda Walshaw.
Thank you, you didn't mention my name.
I'm
I
sorry.
appreciate that, thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. My name is Shelley Parker. I live at Rancho San Luis Rey Mobile Home Park. And first I wanted to say how happy I was to see Daniel Rodriguez's name on this list of appointments. And I think it is really important I think that there is a position that the council has taken in the past about not having people speak on Zoom and we could only listen. And I think that that is...
That's number item 29.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Then I just am happy to see that you have Daniel Dominguez on the agenda.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Ms. Beal?
Hello, Mayor Sanchez, City Council members. My name is Sandy Beal. I live at Rancho San Luis Rey Mobile Home Park. I'm really, really happy to see that people are going to be placed on the Manufactured Home Fair Practices Committee. That's something near and dear to the mobile homeowners. And I really am hoping that the new people that are going to be on the that'll be on the Manufacturers Fair Practices Committee will have time to be able to decide how they feel about this NOI. And I hope that they don't have to just get thrown into it and decide, what they're going to do. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mayor and
Walshaw?
Council. Oops, sorry, it's still ticking. Am I starting over? Okay, hi. I'm Linda Walshaw. I'm the CEO of Mobile Home Advisory Committee, representing parks throughout the county. And I'm here to speak on this item, and we support Mayor Sanchez's choices for Walter Hambley, David Broad, and Dan Dominguez. Mr. Dominguez has spent the last year or so attending housing commissions and mobile home fair practices meetings and getting up to speed on these issues. Additionally, I would like to point out, because I got a phone call right before I left, that Eileen Costa was promised that she could return to the Housing Commission after caring for her husband during his illness. And there seems to be some confusion about that, but I wanted to mention that she has been an excellent housing commissioner, holds degrees in those issues, and works at Brother Benno's for a number of years. So hopefully she can stay on the Housing Commission. It is critical to fill the vacancies and appoint regular commissioners to the Manufactured Home Commission. An NOI hearing for Laguna Vista is tentatively scheduled in March, and annual approval for the approval or denial of rent increases by the commission takes place in April. So this is very timely, and I hope that we can come to these appointments this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Watson?
Ms. Watson?
Good evening. My name is Deborah Watson. I live in Laguna Vista Mobile Park. I came in, and I apologize, I'm a little bit late. I wanted to mention what Ms. Walshaw just mentioned. I think it's so important that we have a full seated commission. And I highly recommend, I think, Mayor Sanchez's choices. The names of David Broad, he's up for re-election, Walter Hambley, and Daniel Dominguez. All really qualified and caring people. That's so important in today's time. I don't know if I'm on the right item. Are we on the, I believe 29 is for the NOI?
That's for the Zoom.
Pardon?
That's in order, number 29 is requesting that testimony be via.
Yes. Yes, and are we talking
virtually.
about that right now?
No, this is just
Okay,
28.
So, okay. I guess it's so important for that. I just want you to know that's basically why I'm here. These park owners cannot afford a ridiculous, I mean, anything for that matter. Just the 3.8, almost 4% increase we got this year hurt a lot of people. So please consider our elderly that are living on Social Security. They'll be your new homeless. So thank you.
Thank you very much. There's a motion and a second.
I don't think it got,
You have your,
I don't think it got seconded yet, did it? But I will second it.
oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay. So we heard from everyone. Councilmember Joyce, I'm sorry, I didn't see the lights. My apologies.
I just want to thank my colleagues for returning our commissions back to working order, the work of our commissions. And I also want to thank, I see a lot of commissioners in this room right now. I want to thank you for volunteering. The work that you do is important. It's vital. It's vital to the way that we work as a city. I love hearing spirited conversations in our commissions. Last night's being no exception. The Housing Commission had some really incredible, important conversations. So thank you for volunteering, and thank you, colleagues, for returning us to regular order.
Thank you, Councilmember Weiss.
Yes, the only issue I have, and I'll support the motion on the condition that all of the term expiration dates that you have on your memo conflict with the expiration dates that the city clerk had posted on the vacancy notices. So I will support the motion, but what I'd like to see is that the actual expiration dates coincide with what the city clerk had posted for the bylaws for each of the commissions.
If I can address that, we weren't able to get several of these done last year. And so the terms are for 3 years. and 2 years for the alternates. So the terms that I've written here reflects that, so that they are able to serve their full terms and have that experience as long as everybody else is able to have.
The terms are set by the bylaws as published by the city clerk's office. You should follow the rules. I mean, I support the names, but if you're going to insist on changing the terms at your will, then I can't support it, but okay.
Councilmember Robinson?
I'm sorry, just one last thing. I just want to make sure everybody knows that today we received some updated changes
Yes.
because some people may be talking about things, and some of that came out of our discussion about my desire to have our alternates
Serve.
into regular positions.
Yes.
So I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Thank you, and I want to thank you very much for your help on that, Councilmember Robinson. Please vote.
Motion approved, 4-1. Weiss, no.
Thank you, and back to, I know what is the general item number 23. That's approval of a professional services agreement with GHD Inc. in the amount of $2.6 million for consultant services in support of Phase 2 of the Sand Nourishment and Retention Pilot Project, and authorization for the city manager to execute the agreement upon receipt of all supporting documents. We have a report by Jamie Timberlake, the city's coastal zone administrator. Ms. Timberlake?
Good evening, esteemed mayor and council. Thank you for having me tonight. My name is Jamie Timberlake. I'm the city's coastal zone administrator. And tonight I am bringing forth to council the contract for Phase 2 of the Sand Nourishment and Retention Pilot Project. Before getting into the contract details, I'll provide you with a brief synopsis of the staff recommendation, briefly review coastal processes in Oceanside, and summarize findings from the Phase 1 beach sand feasibility study. So staff recommends that the City Council approve a professional services agreement with GHD in the amount of $2,591,681 for consultant services in support of Phase 2 of the Sand Nourishment and Retention Pilot Project, and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement upon receipt of all supporting documents. Oceanside has an 80-year history of beach erosion stemming from the construction of the Camp Pendleton Boat Basin in 1942. This is a photo of the Santa Margarita Estuary in 1932, in the area where the boat basin and city's small craft harbor currently sit. Harbors that are built in an estuary with no resistant headland, coupled with a coastal zone with high littoral drift rates or ocean currents, require consistent sediment management. This is seen in harbors up and down the coast of California. Our small craft harbor and the Camp Pendleton Boat Basin are two such harbors that were built in an area that severely impacted the littoral swell and the natural flow of sediment down the coast, causing the need for consistent coastal and sediment management. Sediment management here has historically occurred for various reasons, including disposal of sand from the harbor construction, harbor mouth management and navigation, and for placement of sand to create beaches, an effort known as beach nourishment. This is a table summarizing the larger sediment management events in Oceanside since the 1940s. There are a couple things to note from these historic records. Outlined here in red, you'll see that the wide beaches that were experienced here in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, when a majority of Oceanside coastal areas were being built, were largely the result of the Army Corps placing millions of cubic yards of sand from the construction of the Camp Pendleton Boat Basin and city's small craft harbor. Additionally, it is worth noting that since the construction of the boat basin, it is estimated that over 20 million cubic yards of sand have been placed on our beaches. Yet, these efforts and natural sediment influx have not been able to keep pace with our littoral swell drift rates or consistent eroding wave action. South of the San Luis Rey River mouth, Oceanside has no natural features that retain sand, like a reef or a headland. And south of the pier, our coastline has no artificial structures that retain sand until reaching tamarack jetties. Therefore, Oceanside beaches have historically experienced periods of boom and bust with wide sandy beaches immediately following beach nourishment and narrow or no beaches shortly after sand is placed due to our coastline's natural inability to hold on to sand. In 2020, the city decided to pursue its own investigation to determine the best solution to the chronic erosion of beach sand. The Phase 1 beach sand feasibility study reviewed sediment transport on our coast and our current coastal management methods. Phase 1 determined the reasons why Oceanside cannot keep the sand that we place on our beaches and offered a limited scope of options for retaining sand. For starters, Phase 1 recommended a better sand source be sought by adding sand sand into the littoral cell and onto our beaches. Currently, Oceanside's coastline relies almost entirely on the dredging that we do annually in our harbor. This, this dredged sand is very fine-grained and therefore light and mobile. As depicted in this figure, dredged harbor sand is placed both north and south of the pier each year. We do this during April, which is the beginning of south swell season. This means that fine-grained sand gets picked up and moved northward towards the south jetty and the harbor mouth. Or worse, it gets taken offshore and out of circulation entirely. So the harbor sand does give us benefits, but not enough to be felt on all of Oceanside's beaches. Additionally, the Phase 1 study determined that Oceanside needs to consider retention structures to hold on to placed sand, specifically in areas south of the pier where there are no natural or unnatural retention mechanisms. Regional beach sand projects have historically performed poorly in southern areas of our coastline, with sand placed eroding off our beaches within 2 to 3 years at max. The Phase 1 study therefore concluded that Oceanside would substantially benefit from retaining sand with a structure of some kind. As Phase 1 was a feasibility study, the only structures that were evaluated included artificial reefs and groins, though other nature-based or hybrid structures can be used to accomplish this goal. In August 2021, the City Council voted to move into the next phase, Phase 2, of the study to design and permit a sand nourishment and sand retention pilot project. The council direction requested flexibility in a project design that would yield maximum benefits to all of the city's beaches. Since then, staff have been conducting public, stakeholder, and city-to-city outreach and gathering input. Many members of the public are in support of Phase 1 to define a sand nourishment program and pilot a sand retention project. But concerns were also raised about the potential for sand retention structures to cause downcoast erosion. Additionally, staff received feedback urging the city to pursue a more innovative or nature-based solution to our sand retention problem. Adjustments to the scope of this next phase reflect those in the community that support sand nourishment and retention, but also address erosion concerns. Phase 1 recommendations are not only being pursued through the Phase 2 contract. Since 2021, city staff have been working towards finding intermediate solutions while we pursue long-term projects. We now have a complete suite of sand compatibility opportunistic use permits, known as SCOOP permits. We have been developing the program internally to be ready for when opportunistic sand becomes available. In September 2022, we completed a small sand replenishment and cobble maintenance project at Buccaneer Beach. And at Buccaneer, we are currently assessing nature-based solutions for wave overtopping and beach maintenance. And we are working with the Army Corps on refining the annual dredge and sand placement program, going to deeper depths and aiming to extract as much sediment as possible from this next dredging event in April. The Phase 2 contract being discussed tonight involves further progress on the development of a consistent sand nourishment program and the design of a pilot sand retention structure that mimics natural systems. GHD will serve as the prime consultant and will oversee the main tasks of Phase 2, which include community and stakeholder engagement, continuance of the baseline monitoring program in partnership with Scripps Institution of Oceanography and Save Oceanside Sand, engineering analysis and design, which includes conducting a design competition that will yield 3 innovative, creative design solutions, and finally, environmental compliance and permitting, bringing the project through to implementation. The overall goals of the project are to provide and maintain a sandy beach buffer between the ocean and our built environment, improving public safety at the beach, and providing low-cost recreational opportunities for residents and our visitors. The Sand Nourishment Program investigation will determine a high-quality source of sediment for adding sand into the littoral cell and pre-filling the beach where our pilot retention structure will be built. Once a local sand source is identified, the city could also pursue small-scale beach nourishment under our SCOOP permits. Sand source investigations will begin by looking offshore in tidelands that were granted to the city in 1963 by the State Lands Commission. Looking immediately offshore for sand will allow the city to potentially use a more readily available cutter dredge for sand acquisition and deposition operations. Locating and using offshore sediment for beach nourishment provides an added benefit of capturing sand before it is lost to canyons. The Sand Nourishment Program must be developed as part of this Phase 2 project. We will need to place sand to retain sand, because as I mentioned, there is very little natural sand flowing into the littoral cell from Oceanside's coastline. The Sand Nourishment Program, though comprehensive, does not replace the need for Oceanside to retain sand. Sand is a finite resource and does get lost to deep water canyons off of Carlsbad and off of La Jolla. This is evidenced by borrow sites getting tapped out of sand. Borrow site number 6, which lies off the coast of Encinitas, had an estimated 12 million cubic yards of sand before the region began using the site for large-scale beach nourishment projects. The borrow site now has an estimated 40,000 cubic yards of sand. The sand that we place needs to be retained because the sand is a finite resource. So for the retention part of the project, we'll be investigating a hybrid retention approach, something that retains placed sand but also offers a multitude of ecological and community benefits. We are expecting to invite innovation into the retention structure design through a competitive process that will bring together design teams from all over the world. The design competition will attract new ideas and expertise to address this unprecedented coastal issue. Recent examples of design competitions that yielded creative solutions for sea level rise include the Resilient by Design competition in San Francisco Bay and Rebuild by Design that occurred in post-Hurricane Sandy in Staten Island. The Rebuild by Design competition yielded a low-relief reef concept composed of biologically enhanced concrete that is designed to lessen beach erosion and restore marine ecosystems. All design alternatives will be required to meet minimum design criteria and will be closely overseen by our prime contractor. Dunes, headlands, and surf reefs are all examples of coastal structures that will retain sand in a sustainable manner and could be mimicked artificially. 3 conceptual designs will result from the competition, which will be supported by numerous public outreach, events, and opportunities. A final recommended design will be brought to council at the end of 2023. The selected design will then move into final engineering, environmental compliance, and permitting for the project. To thoroughly understand our positive and negative impacts from our retention and nourishment efforts, we will be continuing scientific beach volume surveys with partnered academic institutes and a citizen science program led by SOS. Baseline monitoring has been ongoing since the kickoff of Phase 1 and will continue through Phase 2, with the goal of providing a robust data set that will support all aspects of the Phase 2 project. This data helps us develop baseline conditions, which will play an important role in testing the success of a pilot project. The baseline data will also help us in establishing metrics in an adaptive management plan that will direct management actions that could be taken should adverse effects to the local or regional sand supply be observed. Community and stakeholder engagement is a large portion of this contract. There are numerous events and creative opportunities planned for getting the public and region engaged. And we hope to do these to understand the benefits that the community wants to see from the project and maintain transparency in decision-making. So just a few highlights on the schedule. Phase 2 kicks off immediately upon approval of the contract, beginning in February with public outreach program development and forming design criteria guidelines for the design competitors. On subtask 4.1 and 4.2, down here, it's kind of hard to read. You'll see the development of the sand nourishment program will be concurrent with the design of a sand retention structure. A winning and recommended retention structure design will be brought to council for approval at the end of this year, followed by final engineering, the development of plans and specifications, estimates for construction, and this will take about 8 months to complete. The environmental compliance component of this phase 2 will begin in early 2024 and during final engineering, so design features can be adjusted to state and federal resource and regulatory requirements. Environmental compliance and permitting is expected to take roughly 1.5 years, and under this schedule, a shovel-ready project would be ready in August 2025. The Phase 2 contract will be paid out of our sand replenishment account, which is sourced from the American Rescue Plan Act funds. Phase 2 will cost $2,591,681, leaving $1,662,283 in the sand replenishment account. So in summary, staff recommends that the City Council vote to approve a professional services agreement with GHD for consultant services in support of Phase 2 of the Sand Nourishment and Retention Pilot Project, and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement upon receipt of all supporting documents. Thank you, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you. How many speakers do we have?
We have 18 speakers on this item.
18 times 3 times 2 times 3? I guess it's less than 20. Okay, you've got 3 minutes. If you can get what you say, if you can get it down to 2 minutes, it would be very much appreciated so that the council can have plenty of time to deliberate over this. Okay, go ahead and get started.
Okay. As I call your name's going to pop up on the big screen here. We do have 2 microphones. So as I call your name, please start making your way up to the front so we could have each speaker just go one right after the other. Also, this meeting is being streamed on KOCT and Zoom. And we also have individuals that are using listening devices, so please keep your applause until the end if you can, and try to maintain decorum as much as we can tonight. So I'll call the first 4 speakers. Our first speaker is Dirk Akima, to be followed by Sherry Mackin, to be followed by Carolyn Kramer, to be followed by Scott Ashton. So please make your way down.
Thank you. When you come to the podium, and we've got 18 speakers, we want to listen to every one of you. If we can cut down on the clapping and do this when you want to clap, we'd really appreciate it to get into the heart of your comments. And again, so that we can deliberate up here. Thank you very much.
Good evening, City Council, Deputy Mayor. Dirk Akima, founding director of Save Oceanside Sand. It's interesting how natural disasters will bring a community together. I've been in Oceanside for 30 years and have witnessed a slow-moving disaster on our beach and our sand. Our sand has gradually eroded to the point where now it can hardly support people putting their blankets out on the beach. We actually have a certifiable disaster upon ourselves right now. I think it's very imperative that the city take action and support this Phase 2 project. consider the effects that that another storm would affect the remaining sandy beach and areas that are now threatened by severe coastal erosion. I think the city should take immediate action and support this project with a unanimous vote. It would send a very strong signal out to the community and the other local cities that everyone is behind this project. I've got to also recognize the immense effort that staff has put into this project. I initially made contact with Kyle Kroger, who's no longer with us, but I want to recognize him as one that has kind of lit the fuse on my effort for this. He's certainly been followed by other people. I'd like to recognize Jonathan Brega, Jamie Timberlake, Russ Cunningham, Hamid over there. All have been very supportive of this staff effort to come up with an innovative solution. And then I have to also recognize Brian Leslie, who's sitting with us here too. He's put together a phenomenal proposal, which includes this design competition, and it's really well thought out. And I got to say that I think Oceanside is going to create a world-class environment here for coastal engineering and studies of this problem that really is facing a lot of communities. And really, I think that now is an excellent time to embark on this project. I certainly sense that things are changing within some of the regulatory agencies, and I think this is an opportunity
Thank you,
that
sir.
the city should grasp.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Get that all in there. Let me start with, when I think of natural nature-based systems, these are nature-based systems, not concrete under the water. My name's Sherry Mackin, Oceanside resident, 1469 Merino Street here in Oceanside. Once again, instead of focusing on getting sand on our beaches now, especially in South Oceanside, you are putting your efforts in $3,591,681 of taxpayer money into studies that include hard structures. The item before you tonight is nothing but the same old, the pig, but with lipstick. I support innovation, but hard structures are not innovation. This is innovation. I was down there during the king tides last weekend. This retains sand without putting concrete in our ocean. Consider changing the RFP for designers to state, create an innovative project that is nature-based and ensured to pass muster of the Coastal Commission and other regulatory agencies. Excuse me. Remember when that survey came out? We all took it. It was the American, what is it here? The American Relief Act. And they asked us our three most important things to us. And I have a copy of the survey here. Sand was so high on that list to all of us because we're Oceanside. We're about the beach and sand. Having said that, I must say, it was no surprise to me that it came in the top three choices, but that doesn't give you the green light to waste taxpayer money on studies that include retention devices that will never pass muster with the Coastal Commission or our neighbors. I want to also state, someone here said the agencies are softening up. That has not been my experience in any way whatsoever, and I think the council has received plenty of letters from various groups that would attest to that. So having said that, now is the time to focus on getting sand on our beaches here and now. I was told by staff, no sand replenishment will happen south of Wisconsin again, not this year, again. The only sand we get annually is spread from North Coast Village to Tyson Street for tourists. Why must we always put tourists before residents? We desperately need our beaches nourished, and it's time to do it.
15
Therefore,
seconds.
Please remove the idea of hard retention structures from GHD contract and focus on sand replenishment past Wisconsin.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Sanchez and council members. Carolyn Kramer, representing Citizens for the Preservation of Parks and Beaches. The Citizens for the Preservation of Parks and Beaches cannot support the professional services agreement for Phase 2 of the Sand Nourishment and Retention Pilot Project, as long as the study includes hard structures. Hard structures, which include groins and jetties, do what they are supposed to do: trap sand. Groins and jetties steal sand from the beaches to the south, including South Oceanside and the beaches south of any groin. In North County, sand moves from north to south, and trapping sand will impact the sand supply to neighboring beaches to the south, from South Oceanside to Del Mar. I am especially concerned that they would destroy our many sandbars and our surf breaks, including the Pier, Tyson Street, Oceanside Boulevard, The Rock, and Cassidy Street. Groins have been known to destroy beach breaks, which rely on sand arrangements on the ocean floor. We all know the harbor is the reason for our sand loss. We are not alone, and this is also happening in Capistrano Beach due to the construction of the Dana Point Harbor. Many surf breaks were destroyed when Dana Point Harbor was built. We already know what the problem is, so let's find a solution to the problem. The Citizens for the Preservation of Parks and Beaches supports the comments from SURF, Coastal Environmental Rights Foundation, and the Surfrider Foundation. We do not support our city spending $2.6 million on something that has already been studied to death. We do support our city spending the money on a solution to get sand from the Santa Margarita River over to our Oceanside beaches, where the natural flow will deposit the sand on our starred beaches to the south, including South Oceanside. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ashton.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Scott Ashton, CEO of the Oceanside Chamber of Commerce, and on behalf of the Chamber Board of Directors and our Oceanside business community, I want to thank council and staff for prioritizing efforts to replenish and maintain sand on our beaches. As you know, this is a critical issue for our business community, as well as visitors and Oceanside residents. For our locals, the beaches are an important part of Oceanside's history and culture, as well as a key element of the tremendous quality of life that we enjoy. Our beaches provide an important opportunity for recreation for families of all income levels, as well as much needed protection for our coastline infrastructure. For our small businesses, the beaches are a vital economic driver. Visitor spending in Oceanside has grown exponentially over the past couple of decades and has been a boon to our local economy, bringing in over $500 million annually of spending to our local business community. This spending is critical to the success of our small businesses and provides important tax revenue to fund essential services for Oceanside residents. We commend city staff for seeking innovative options to address this issue. The proposed design competition creates an opportunity for the Coastal Commission to participate early on in the development of the sand retention design, which further ensures that the design will be something that is permittable and can be implemented under the Coastal Act. We respectfully request your support of staff recommendation to move forward with Phase 2 of the Sand Nourishment Retention Pilot Project. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Mr. Davenport.
Yes, good evening. My name is Roger Davenport at 541 Crouch Street. But tonight I'm here as the co-chair of our Oceanside Sierra Club group. The Sierra Club opposes the use of sand retention structures or solutions that rely on hard structures. Instead, we prefer soft solutions such as beach sand nourishment, sand bypass, and other systems that are more natural. We specifically oppose groins in the Oceanside for several reasons. One, the beach sand problem needs a regional solution. We don't want Carlsbad, Encinitas, and Solana Beach suing us for taking sand away from their beaches. Second, the Coastal Commission hasn't permitted a new groin since 1998 and generally frowns upon seawalls, revetments, and groins. Third, Groins could adversely affect our surf breaks and create rip currents. These would reduce the attractiveness of oceanside beaches for tourists and locals. Finally, we think that we really need to seriously address the sea level rise. Coastal flooding days due to sea level rise and storm surge are projected to increase from about 10 days a year to about 50 days a year by 2040. That's once a week. Many things now on our beaches, including groins if we put them in, will be overrun or become untenable within just a decade or two. Since we're spending money now, we really should consider long-term solutions. As seawater levels rise, beaches need to rise and move landward. Things on the beach now need to move or be removed. Otherwise, we'll face increasing threats to our coastal infrastructure and more frequent and worse disasters. So we urge you to ensure that if you do approve this phase 2 of the pilot project, that you make sure that they concentrate efforts on other approaches than simply installing groins along the oceanside beaches. That'll only achieve short-term sand retention. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Silverstein.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, Mitch Silverstein, San Diego County Policy Coordinator with the Surfrider Foundation. Surfrider represents our ocean waves beaches and thousands of San Diegans who love them. Thanks for the opportunity to comment on this item and for including us as a stakeholder in the staff report. Surfrider opposed the Four Groin project approved back in 2021, as did several downdrift cities. We sympathize with the plight of Oceanside's beaches, but felt an approach more inclusive of the entire region's concerns was necessary. I'd like to thank the city for some of their efforts since that time, including hiring its first coastal zone administrator, who along with Deputy Mayor Keim have done a lot of regional public outreach about this project. We do support the nourishment aspects, including exploring local offshore sand sources, advocacy for a sand bypass around the harbor, mitigation from the Army Corps, and also the baseline monitoring and all of the other scientific aspects. However, we also acknowledge that sand replenishment, even with retention, will yield short-term benefits even under the most optimistic sea level rise scenarios. We recommend that GHD and the city put an estimated timeline on any finalized project, similar to the 50-year Encinitas Solana Beach project to south of us. It's crucial that the community understands how long this project is intended to have benefits so as not to contribute to the false notion that sand replenishment is a long-term solution for beach loss. On that note, we need more political will to take on the challenge of long-term coastal planning. Oceanside needs an LCP update with stricter coastal setbacks for all development and a trigger-based adaptation plan that includes moving infrastructure back from the coast. This is the only way to restore Oceanside's beaches in the long term. Regarding sand retention, we appreciate that the proposal has stepped back from a traditional groin field. The new scope of work includes reassuring commitments to public outreach, inclusion of neighboring cities and regional stakeholders, and assurance that final project won't negatively affect regional sand supply. However, no concrete details have been given to back that last claim up, so we can't comment on whether the design competition will bring forward innovative and/or nature-based approaches that haven't already been considered. I really hope they do, though. We're still concerned that a traditional groin field or some other hard, permanent structure that future generations will be stuck with, like the harbor jetties, may be the end result of the competition. If that happens, it's unlikely Surfrider, Downdrift City, Sandag, and ultimately the Coastal Commission will support it, and we'd hate to see wasted money and a disappointed community. Therefore, I'd ask the council to instruct GHD to remove traditional groins and other hard, permanent structures from consideration in the pre-established design criteria that will guide the design competition. That will ensure that an innovative and/or nature-based approach actually occurs. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Davenport.
Cindy Davenport, to be followed by Leslie Gall, to be followed by Fran Patterson, to be followed by Pat Caulfield.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. I'm Cindy Davenport, resident of historic Loma Alta since 2008. I'm also a co-chair of our local Oceanside Sierra Club group. And you may have already received the letter that Sierra Club sent to you. So in a nutshell, again, Sierra Club agrees with a soft engineering approach, and we support beach replenishment. We support enhancements to the natural system, soft or natural approaches, and we oppose the installation of any hard approaches, including groins. They are counterproductive. You build one, you're just going to have to keep building them. But a lot of us in the area probably saw the San Diego Union Tribune story on what we're discussing tonight. And they did make a statement. The Coastal Commission generally frowns upon seawalls, revetments, and groins. Numerous studies have shown the structures can contribute to erosion and cause more problems than they solve. So to me, that means that we need a holistic approach. This is a natural environment. It's the environment. And so we should be talking with our neighbors and solve any problems or make any innovative solutions together, because as the poet said, no man is an island. We should be talking with our neighboring cities, and we should be doing any sort of research like this together. Why should the city spend this much money for something that will just be turned down by the Coastal Commission? So there could be a wide range of natural solutions. Our rivers do bring sand to the beaches, but since we have so many invasive non-native plants in the riverbeds, that's one way we could start to get more sand on the beach. Again, it's holistic. That's not the only answer. So let's talk with our neighbors and research it together, get the science, get the facts, and then see where we can put our money. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Sanchez, Deputy Mayor Keim, and City Council members. My name is Leslie Gall, and I'm the CEO of Visit Oceanside. And on behalf of the board and the Oceanside tourism industry, we respectfully ask that you support staff's recommendation and move forward with phase 2 of the SAM pilot program. First off, I'd like to thank you and staff for making this a priority. This is a critical issue at this time. As we represent the industry that generates over $509 million in visitor spending in Oceanside, this visitor spending directly generates $17 million in local tax receipts for our general fund. This revenue supports critical services and infrastructure for our community, impacting our quality of life, not to mention the beach itself. We are blessed to be a beach destination, and it's no surprise that our beaches are the #1 activity our visitors experience. When they're gone, or there's a perception that we aren't caring for our beaches, it directly impacts these revenues. This tourism revenue plays an important role in our overall beach economy, but it's also just a part of the immeasurable economic inequity caused when we don't do anything. In addition to economic inequity, it's unfair to our residents, especially our underserved youth. While other beach communities can thrive and enjoy their beach resources and recreation, various sporting activities, and youth camps, our beaches are important to our community and are inherent to our culture and heritage, as well as other existence benefits that include biodiversity and protecting our ecosystems. It's not right that other regional projects have not benefited Oceanside. We have neighboring cities that are growing sand more and more every year while we lose sand. That's not fair. However, this project can provide a learning opportunity for our city and region, being on the forefront of creating innovative, natural solutions that can expand beyond Oceanside. Thank you for your time and consideration as we are at a critical juncture. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Fran Patterson, and I live in Northern Virginia, but I've been coming to Oceanside the last 26 years. 2 years ago, I realized that the ocean beach was kind of eroding. And when I found out that this program was presented to you to help restore the beaches, I felt like I wanted to come and actually thank the people of Oceanside for this proposal. I love Oceanside, and I certainly would like to come back. But you know, people don't come if there's no beach. So I think this program is important. Thank you.
Pat Caulfield, to be followed by Amy Ashton, to be followed by Matt Caulfield, to be followed by Joan Bachman.
Good evening. I'd like to start by looking at the bigger picture. The state of California is the 5th largest economy in the world. It is larger than that of India, which is the largest populated country in the world. The coastal region of California occupies about 24% of California. It houses over 80% of the population, and it contributes over 80% to the economy of California. As we come down the coast, we come to Oceanside. Oceanside is the most important city in North County. It's the largest city, it has the largest population, it has everything. It has an airport, it has a harbor, it has a pier, it has trains that go north and south, and it is the only city that has a train that goes east. The job of our city and our city council is to keep our economy strong and healthy and vibrant. The most important asset that we have is our almost 4-mile coastline. It is what drives the economy. It is the jewel in the crown. Unfortunately, over the past year and a half, it has been greatly diminished and compromised. When beaches close, people stop coming to our city. This creates a downward spiral. Businesses close, and we lose jobs. Perhaps the greatest consequence of closed beaches is the effect it has on our real estate. This is also diminished and compromised. And this affects every homeowner in the city. Our city understands that the #1 priority is our coast. I applaud them for putting this comprehensive proposal on the table. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Amy Ashton, and I actually have this speech, but it's kind of repetitive, it's the same thing over and over and over. I do want to thank the city, though, for responding over the past 3 years since I've moved to Oceanside, for the response they've given, the action and commitment to study, hash out, and develop plans to restore and retain sand on the beach. It saddens me because when we moved here 7 years ago, we used to be able to go down almost every beach access and put a chair down and enjoy the beach. And now we live right up by Cassidy Street, and it's just rocks from there all the way to the pier almost. And so I am totally in favor of phase 2. The plan should go ahead. I'm really hoping the city council works with the city, who has been working really hard to get this passed. Thank you. Thank you.
Mayor Sanchez, members of the City Council. First, I would like to commend you for addressing the restoration of our beaches, the informative and other actions that you've taken over the last year and a half. A very informative coastal management page on the city's website, hiring a full-time coastal administrator, a first-rate administrator, incidentally, and the professional efforts of your staff, led by City Manager Borrego, indicates Oceanside is finally ready to get something done with coastal restoration. Similarly, the leadership of Ryan Kime, Deputy Mayor Ryan Kime, our representative, Oceanside's representative, the Sandag, was the reason we have a regional program going at the same time this project is going. And thank you, Deputy Mayor Kime. Second, I urge you to avoid the pitfalls that characterize Phase 1. To do so requires the unanimous affirmative vote by the mayor and every member of the council, and then wholehearted support it with a strong, unified city position. We have a case. We can make it. It is all for naught if we are perceived to be in disarray. A few facts. Beach restoration is possible. Scientists tell us again and again that in the worst case scenarios of sea level rise, we can restore our beaches for the next 40 years. 40 years, quality of life, I think of generation after generation of children not yet born. Oceanside offers the best return on investment. Nowhere in North County is there more return for the dollar spent on Oceanside improvement in terms of people going to the beach than Oceanside. The benefits are enormous. Quality of life, habitat restoration, economic. And the one that you don't think about often, but it's bound to raise its ugly head, is municipal investment. You have been promising people, investors, for years about the attractiveness of our beaches. You have watched them disappear daily, and you do nothing about it.
15 seconds.
Talk about Carlsbad suing you. I'm amazed that you haven't been sued by investors. So it's in everyone's interest. It's in our economic interest, and we can get it done. It's a great city.
Thank you, sir.
And we have a great program.
Can I have the camera on here? Joan Bachman, longtime resident. You've been putting money into the backs of dump trucks for a long time and dumping it on the beaches. And it's just been washing away. So now we're going to take even more money, put it in wheelbarrows, I don't know what you're going to use, and just dump it into the ocean. That's what the hard structures will do. We just had the recent king tides. That will be normal. Okay, we've known this since a long time ago, and we could have made changes, and we haven't. And so that's happening. We are also a very different beach from Encinitas. If you look at the coastline, they're more in a bay, and we are not. So anything you do is going to be temporary. It's going to fail. The ocean has a relentless tap, tap, tap that just goes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for millennia, okay? We are not going to solve that problem. We're just going to dump money into the ocean. I'm kind of amazed people are talking about future generations when we know the people that will suffer the most from sea level rise are the lower income groups and not the rich people on the beach. They're going to be fine. They're going to cash out. They're going to leave, okay? But the money that could have been here, for this, there were 4 students here. They got what they needed for class and took off. So I'm sorry they didn't stay here to fight for their own futures. Because what's happening is we will always have a beach. The beach right now is right here. And that's where it is. So it's a public beach, and we need to get back to our public beaches. So I do not want to see any kind of hard structures. Managed retreat is the only way that we can deal with sea level rise in all of our coastal cities. And to be talking about doing anything else is simply continuing putting the money into the back of the dump trucks and dumping it on the beach, as we have been doing for very long. I'm very thankful for the jobs that's created, but obviously it hasn't worked. And my beach is in somebody else's backyard, and that's our public beach. So managed retreat is going to be our only answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, council members, mayor. My name is Nick Ritchie. I'm the co-founder of Save Oceanside Sand. And before I start with my prepared statement, I just got to say a few things about some things that I heard, because we've been doing a lot of our own research for the last 4 years in tandem with the scripts. Things that I heard really concerned me, like, oh, it's going to ruin the surf. You know, Oceanside has the second largest surf industry of the entire world, right here on industry. Pizzle, chemistry. If you've never gone and visit, go and visit. They're great guys. And guess what they say about hard structures? They like the idea because it creates great surf. Okay, it doesn't destroy the surf. And by the way, another person said, oh, it's just, they're all gonna go away. It's gonna create this problem. All you've gotta do is go to Newport Beach. You've got 11 groins. I'll say that word that scares everybody. There's 11 of them. They've been there for 60 some odd years. Ask Laguna, okay, downstream. Has it impacted them as far as sand? No. They have great beaches. Everything is working out fine. And they're still there after all these tides, king tides, all the storms. They're still there and they're doing what they're supposed to do. Once again, I'm sorry, I just had to speak out because I hear this over and over again, this relentless, these non-truths is what they are. And when we can look at it. And another thing, that the Coastal Commission will be completely against anything that we do that has to do with anything that they either agree or don't agree to do. I'm going to read this to you. This is right out of the Coastal Act. It says revetments, breakwaters, groins, harbor channels, seawalls, cliff retaining walls, and other such construction that alters natural shoreline processes shall be permitted. Shall be permitted. It doesn't say they're against it. It's like there's this big, it's a straw man. They're being hypocritical, I would think, because it says right here in the thing that created them in 1972, it says that they shall be permitted to do what? To protect public property and private property and to protect infrastructure. So I'm sorry, I had to say that quick. But anyway, and I'm almost out of my time here, but I do want to say what Jamie said as well. As far as the sand goes, it's finite. 80% of all the world's sand resides in concrete, right? We've only got 20% left. That's all we've got left. So we've got to be very judicious in what we do it and how we do it. And I just want to encourage
15
council
seconds.
once again, to please approve this. It's got great potential, and we've got to do all we can do to protect our coastline. Thank you.
Robert Walker?
Yes.
To be followed by Tricia Lewis.
Can I have these lights back on over here?
Oh, sure.
Thank you. Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Honorable Mayor, council members, my name is Bob Walker. I live in Oceanside. I do not live on the beach. I live in Peters District. And so, but I want to clarify real quick. These these so-called living soft structures that were that were brought up earlier tonight. I believe Brian Leslie is here. Brian, those buried hard structures?
Please address your comments to the council.
Buried hard structures. So everybody realize that those are hard structures that have sand on top of them with a couple of plants. So I don't know what, you're being misled there. So I want to thank staff. I want to thank Jamie Timberlake and her advisors for the working on their reinventing phase 2 for this beach restoration. I want to ask the council to approve the staff recommendation and to restore our beaches. This issue could turn out to be your legacy of the staff or council. This could be your legacy for your tenure. We're 1 month into 2023. We have experienced a Pineapple Express, an atmospheric river, and a cyclone bomb. And during rainstorms, the San Luis Rey River used to flood, and it caused damages to homes and businesses down in the valley. Previous council members were forced to decide if they could use science and engineering to retain the water and channel this water back out to sea. Our business, or were they going to inform the businesses and homeowners that their city has adopted what we call managed retreat and have everybody move out of the valley. Previous council members were forced to decide if they could use science and engineering to retain the stormwater and channel it out to sea. I just said that. So most residents and business owners living in the valley today probably do not realize that their lives have been spared the past 2 weeks if the city had not taken these bold moves to retain the stormwaters. I want to thanks to the forward thinking of our city leaders at that time and their commitment to improving the quality of life of Oceanside. They chose a flood channel control system Once again, our city faces the challenges of resiliency, similar to the challenges Oceanside has faced in the past. Now it's along our coastline. Other cities in California have faced similar challenges that we are facing today. And this is a photo of Newport Beach over a half a century ago. And this is a photo.
15 seconds.
These are all the groins that's a groin system right there of what Newport Beach looks like today. And Oceanside, we can do the same. And your legacy, voting on this, it depends on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we're going to pause there. My apologies to the public hearing. That is number 25, but I was hoping to try to get all the public comments in. So we're going to pause. My apologies, ma'am. We're going to have to wait and call number 25, which is adoption of a resolution approving a development plan and request for density bonus to allow the construction of a 4-story apartment complex consisting of 22 market rate units and 2 low-income affordable units at 701 to 713 North Freeman Street. I'd like to go ahead and open this public hearing, request disclosure from my colleagues, commissioners, regarding constituent contacts and correspondence.
Staff only.
Staff and a site visit?
Staff only?
Same. Staff only.
Actually, I did have a couple of conversations with members of the public. My apologies.
Staff.
All right, Mr. Secretary, do we have any correspondence and or petitions?
We have not received any correspondence or petition on this item.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and could you please keep comments to a really low? Thank you. As soon as we finish this, we'll get back to the item number 23. All right, we're going to begin with a report from Delaney Carmen, planner with the City of Oceanside.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. I'm Delaney Carmen with the Planning Division, and I'm here to present Agenda Item 25, Development Plan RD 2201. Staff recommends that the CDC adopt a resolution approving a development plan and request for density bonus to allow the construction of a 4-story apartment complex consisting of 22 market rate units and 2 low-income affordable units at 701 through 713 North Freeman Street. The site consists of 4 parcels totaling 20,000 square feet and is located in the Townsite Neighborhood Planning Area and bears a general plan land use designation of downtown. Per the city's downtown zoning ordinance, the property is located within Subdistrict 9, which encourages residential uses where appropriate. The site is bordered by a mix of single-family and multifamily residences to the north, south, and east, and commercial retail uses to the west on North Coast Highway. The proposed apartment project would include 22 market rate units and 2 low-income affordable units. As designed, the 4-story building would have 3 levels of apartments over a ground-level parking garage. The units would range in size from 818 square feet to 1442 square feet in a variety of 1- and 2-bedroom floor plans with all private open space areas being provided in the form of balconies. Access to the 26-space parking garage would be via the alley on the west side of the building, with an additional 7 uncovered parking spaces located to the south of the garage entry. The main pedestrian entry is located on Freeman Street, opening into an elevator lobby that also contains the mailroom. The style of the proposed project takes inspiration from local beach architecture and modernizes it with the placement of the various materials, creating a geometric pattern over the facades. Private balconies add further modulation to the building. Additional proposed planting and trees both on-site and in the parkways serve to enhance the walkability of the site by providing shading and structural relief. In exchange for reserving 10% or 2 low-income units, the project is allowed a 20% density bonus that would provide 4 additional units above the maximum allowed, for a total of 24 units. The 2 affordable units will be proportional to other market rate units provided, will be dispersed throughout the project, and will be allocated as affordable to low-income households per the state density bonus law. By providing 10% low-income units, this project is entitled to 1 concession, which is a request to eliminate requirements for undergrounding utility poles and electric lines on the south side of Windward Way opposite the project site. In order to accommodate the increased density allowed under density bonus law, the project cannot physically comply with all of the development standards required for non-density bonus projects. The applicant has requested waivers from the following 7 development standards pursuant to state density bonus law. As detailed in the staff report, staff has evaluated the project and finds it consistent with the zoning ordinance, subdivision ordinance, and general plan. The project is subject to the subdivision ordinance due to electrical undergrounding requirements and will be undergrounding the utility poles on the western front of the property. However, the project is also requesting a waiver from undergrounding the overhead 69 kV lines along Neptune Way as permitted under subdivision ordinance Article 9. The project's proposed density is consistent with the surrounding multifamily residential land use designation, and the incorporation of local coastal architectural style would integrate the project into the surrounding neighborhood and improve the existing vacant infill site by providing new housing and landscaping. On November 9th, the Downtown Advisory Committee was presented with the project and voted unanimously to recommend CDC approval. Therefore, staff recommends that the Community Development Commission adopts a resolution approving a development plan and request for density bonus to allow the construction of a 4-story apartment complex consisting of 22 market rate units and 2 low-income affordable units at 701 through 713 North Freeman Street. This concludes staff's presentation. We will be available to answer any questions, and the applicant has also prepared a presentation.
Thank you. This is the time for the applicant to speak on behalf of the project. You have up to 20 minutes. And my apologies, I read out the title from what is on the agenda. The staff report actually has the larger title that includes information regarding the applicant, which is Spano Properties LP. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of council. My name is Kelly Canister with the Lightfoot Planning Group, representing the Spano family of Oceanside and the North Freeman Street project. And I have just a brief presentation to expand on some of the items that you've heard from Delaney. The property is located on the northern edge of downtown in a mixed-use block along Coast Highway, within 3/4 mile of the Oceanside Transit Center to the south and near San Luis Rey Bike Trail access point. This is a close-up view of the mixed-use block shared with a market and a cafe. It's in sub-district D9 of downtown, which allows both commercial and
Ma'am, could I stop you there and just, could we please have any conversations outside? It's kind of distracting over here, trying to listen to the applicant. Thank you very much. Did you stop the clock for her? Thank you very much. My apologies.
Thank you. In a transitional area to the exclusively residential areas to the east. The project is proposed under state density bonus laws discussed by Delaney and detailed in the staff report to contribute both affordable and market rate units to the city. These are some of the features that were also covered in the staff report, including parking that's provided under density bonus law, and the existing curb cuts that'll be reconstructed to add to public street parking. Vehicular access for resident parking is taken from the existing alley, where there's also a designated loading zone and the solid waste room. The green areas in this image show the landscaping that'll be included on site and in the adjacent parkways, along with the biobasins in the corners of the building that'll also be fully planted to add to the greenery and treat runoff from the building. That's a detailed landscape plan that shows improvements to the parkways fronting the 2 public streets that include replacing 1 ficus tree with 6 new city-approved street trees on Freeman, 2 more on Windward, and 6 more trees on site, along with various shrubs and ground covers to fill in all the rest of the landscape areas. The front setback is a little bit larger than the minimum, which allows more planting from the main public view. This is a typical residential plan, showing that each unit has a private balcony and no roof deck is proposed with this project. And Delaney's also reviewed the waivers and the incentive that are proposed with the project and listed in more detail in the staff reports. This was the initial concept, a contemporary coastal image with a variety of siding, styles, and colors. A more contemporary version of the new Seabird Resort here downtown. And that was translated by John Sheese, a local Oceanside architect, and shown here in a computer rendering from Windward and Freeman. The ground floor has windows to provide natural light into the garage and to make it look a little more commercial or lived in for both aesthetic and for security reasons to respond to some staff concerns. And the upper residential floors show the 2 different siding types and colors. And then there are traditional accents in the pitch metal roof and the corbel support. And that's it. Thank you for your time, and I'll be here to answer any questions.
Thank you. No rebuttal, right? Right, because there's not an appellant. She does have rebuttal if she wants it. Oh, okay. You do have rebuttal should you need it. All right, this is the time for the hearing from the public. You do not have to have submitted a slip to be able to speak on this item. If you wish to speak after we hear whether or not, how many slips do we have? 3? 2. After that, I will ask if anyone else wishes to address the council on this. You would approach the podium and have up to 3 minutes, starting with identifying yourself with your name. So would you like to call the first 2?
Mike Roy, to be followed by Chris Urin. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your last name. Oh, yes. All right. Right on.
Okay, we ready? Lights going on? Okay. My name's Mike Roy. I live at 725 North Freeman Street, which is at the north end of this block of this proposed project. And all you council members should have gotten an email voicing my concerns, which I'll follow and describe. There's several issues that I am very, very concerned about. One being overcrowding the neighborhood, adding 24 family dwelling units to an already crowded situation with all the existing multi-family structures along the 4-block section between Neptune and Civic Center. Safety, more traffic congestion on Freeman Street, as well as the 24 units planned. There will be children involved with no planned play space in this project. And where else do they have play than other than going out in the street? Parking is already oversaturated on Freeman Street, as well as streets to the east and side streets. With 22 of the 24 units being at market value rents, there will no doubt going to be at least 2 wage earners per unit, which means more, and plus visitors that will come to the site, creating more cars than the project can handle and spilling over to the streets. The overflow vehicles will seek street parking, which there is none of. This will create competition for parking with existing residents. And how fair is this? And will there be hostilities created? As well as restaurant and market overflow parking is now going into the empty lot. Where are these people going to go when space is no longer available other than to seek street parking, which is not there, and further upsetting residents? Alley congestion. Even now, the alley behind me is very busy with people using the restaurant, plus delivery trucks, people using the alley as a shortcut, and difficulty getting in and out of the garages. If you were to record traffic flow, I think you could build a case for adding street signals, stoplights at either end of this alley. That seems silly, but there's a lot of traffic. More traffic goes through that alley than goes through on Freeman Street. Property values will have an effect. What makes much more sense is to add more single-family homes like those that already exist or some other design on that same side of the street, and all these issues will go away or at least become more manageable. There is little time, I think there's been too little time studying the impact of this project
Thank you, sir.
On the project.
Hello,
Thank you.
Mayor and council members. My name is Chris Uren, and I have concerns with the parking with how it is at this moment. Fremont Street parking, as well as the surrounding streets in the neighborhood block area, is at capacity. 2, proposing only 1 parking space per unit for the proposed development is unacceptable and will negatively impact the existing residents. Photos of the street as it is during the weekend and every night when I come home from work. There's already capacity, there's no parking. The parking lot in the restaurant and the store behind the proposed development is already using the lot to park their vehicles for all their customers. And wondering where everybody's going to park. Excuse me. In summary, the proposed development site is currently handling parking for the Red and White Market and Harbor Cafe. Any future development should anticipate high volume of parking needs for existing businesses and tenants. At a minimum, 2 parking spaces should be provided for each unit within the footprint of the development project. 3, we propose that single-family homes be built that are similar to the homes adjacent to the development site. These homes provide a 2-car garage with 2 parking spaces. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is your time to address the council on this item. If you'd like to speak, please approach the podium, state your name, and you have up to 3 minutes. Ms. Bachman.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Of course, I'm going to speak on this if I'm here anyway. I do want to talk about this because we vehemently opposed one in our neighborhood, which is a tragic, tragic building. This building isn't even a whole block long, so that's good. It has much better architecture. And one of the things that definitely helps this building is the parkway around the building with canopy trees. Those trees must be canopy trees. They cannot be palm trees. They have to come out and give a canopy. And as many as they can fit in there would be great. The next thing I'm hearing about traffic and parking and all that, all of our streets west of 5 need traffic calming. We've been asking for it in the Seaside neighborhood. Despite this 7-story horrible thing that was approved that didn't have to be, we got nothing for that. This neighborhood needs traffic calming. They will need bulb outs, no stop signs, no stoplights, never stoplights. What you need is slow and continuous movement of traffic. If you have slow and continuous movement of traffic, you can handle a lot of traffic. If it's fast, zooming up to a stoplight, stop sign or stoplight, you just have noise, you have unsafe conditions and all of that. So you can solve both the parking and the traffic issue by putting in bulb outs on every corner that puts a tree actually out into the street, put roundabouts into the middle of the streets, and consider diagonal parking and one-way streets. That doubles your parking. So those are the kind of things we need to be talking about and we need to be actually doing for our neighborhoods. I'm from Albuquerque. They have places where they simply painted a roundabout in some streets. It works. People do it. It actually works, and it solves a problem. So we've got to get past where they just give us an apartment building. We need the gift to the street. All architecture should have a gift to the street. And in this case, you need traffic calming and increased landscaping in the street. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item? I see no one rising. I'm going to go ahead and close on the public hearing portion of this and ask the applicant if they wish to do any rebuttal.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I will let you know that the parking was provided based on state density bonus, so it's 1 per 1 bedroom and 1.5 for the 2-bedroom. And the trees are not palm trees; they are shade trees.
Good. Are you happy, Joan? Yeah. I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud? My apologies. It's a public hearing. Okay. So back to the council. Does staff wish to say anything at this point? No, right? Okay. To the council, Councilmember Joyce?
I would just take every opportunity to again bring up that when we have density bonus projects, we do have a limited amount of scope that we can ask and require of developers. So we do appreciate that there are a lot of things to like about this project. And the downtown itself is getting more dense. Recognizing that the reality of that means more traffic. I think traffic calming in downtown does make a lot of sense in the Seaside area. I know we were looking at Fire Mountain for putting in 27 measures of traffic calming. So I would like to engage with staff in the near future about how that we're going to look at this neighborhood, especially given that we are focusing density in those neighborhoods specifically. Also, when we get these projects, we as a city could make a decision to require more affordable housing every time we have a density bonus project. I will continue to advocate for that every time we get a moment to speak about it. And so just bringing it up again to my colleagues that we have that decision before us as soon as we are ready to do that. Otherwise, thank you for the time.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Keim.
Just a quick question for staff. If we wanted to tonight and we wanted to change it to single-family homes and increase the parking to 2 per unit, would we have the legal ability to do that?
Deputy Mayor Keim, members of the City Council, no, we don't have that discretion to ask the applicant to redesign their project under state density bonus law.
Can you just explain that a little more for those that aren't familiar with it?
So state density bonus law and I think some case law, and the city attorney can confirm this, limits the staff's ability to design a project for an applicant. Our neighbors, one of our neighbors to the south recently did that and got themselves in a little bit of hot water. So we're not allowed, we have limited discretion on what changes we can mandate. They have to be based on a specific adverse impact. We can mandate changes related to that. And in this case, none have been identified.
Okay, thank you. And I'd like to support my colleague, Councilmember Joyce's call for more affordable units in these type of projects. Thank you.
Thank you. No other lights. I did have a question. One of the requests to waive was regarding undergrounding of the utilities. They are going to contribute towards the fund. Is that correct? I mean, what was it?
Mayor Sanchez, members of the City Council. So under state density bonus law, they're allowed to ask for a concession or an incentive.
Right.
This project's entitled to one. The concession they're asking for is to waive the undergrounding requirements for some overhead utilities that exceed the voltage that could be undergrounded, and they're not required to pay to an in lieu fee.
They're not required to pay for?
No, ma'am.
Wow. Well, the state is requiring us to through the density bonus, build more housing. I am really happy to hear that the council is interested in requiring more affordable housing units. It's a shame that there are 22 units and only 2 are going to be affordable, and that's really what our community needs. Right. So I hope, can we direct staff to come up with language at a future meeting to address that? Is that a possibility? We can do that, right? We can.
You can make a referral to have us come back and report to you on that, but I think we'd want to be clear. Are you talking about amending the inclusionary housing ordinance to have a higher percentage mandated by each project?
Yes.
I'm not sure if that's what the...
I think Encinitas has 15%, is that right? I think.
Yeah, we just went through our inclusionary housing update, though, and that wasn't a direction. So we could come back and increase it from 10.
If we're seeing that density bonus is the way that most projects are being built, then we could specifically look at density bonus projects.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Can we do a standalone where density bonus projects themselves
not on my time.
are required of 15%?
Well, state law entitles a project to a particular density if there is 10%. We'd have to conduct some research to see if you could mandate it at a higher number than state law allows. But we could come back and report back to you on that.
But Encinitas does have 15%, so that must be something that can be done.
I think you're talking about two different things, though. I think Councilmember Joyce is talking about unique to density bonus projects. And what we were talking about earlier is increasing our 10% to 15%. Mayor, I think that's what you're referring to.
Right.
So really two different issues.
Right.
Yes, you could raise the inclusionary. The question is, could we mandate a higher
separate
percentage
standard
for
for
density bonus
bonus
when the state law already allows for a bonus at a particular level? I'll have to look at that.
Thank you. I think what we're looking at besides traffic calming is a parking program, because I hope what is being done is that anyone who wishes to buy a unit, they're going to be for market, right? That their paperwork shows that that these homes do not have, that this is the only parking they get. So for those that are going to be impacted in this neighborhood, I think it's going to be important to do a parking program to ensure that the residents who are currently there are not further impacted by this larger project that would normally not be able to be approved. So I do look forward to that, to discussing those kind of things, like limiting hours of parking, but definitely allowing the residents to be able to park in front of their homes. So I also want to say that this would work, but we do not have public transportation. And that is really the crux of the problem, is that this is so close to Coast Highway. It should be able to work in terms of people being able to go out, walk not that far, and catch a bus. And that's just not going to happen. So that is something that we need to do for the city of Oceanside and for the region, North region, that we need to really work on public transportation. No one wishes to make a motion? No lights.
Motion to approve.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. No other lights, please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you, and we're going to go back to our two general items. We were at item number 23, and we were with Tricia Lewis. Is she still here? Ms. Lewis? And then Tor Stensrud, and then John Krasik. Ms. Lewis? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Tricia Lewis. This here is a depiction of Santa Monica State Beach by artist Marlene Zimmerman. I love this painting because it depicts the beach as almost magical. You see swimmers, surfers, sailors, sunbathers, kids digging in the sand, volleyball players, walkers, bikers. The beach is a beloved public space. It offers so much for so many. I'm here to encourage you to vote in favor of Phase 2. For many of us, the last few years have been like a crash course in sandy beaches, thanks to the efforts of Save Oceanside Sand and the actions taken by the Oceanside City Council. It's been fascinating to learn about sand nourishment projects around the world, but I had no idea that the large, sandy, world-famous beaches just up in LA and in other spots in Southern California, such as the Santa Monica State Beach, were created with sand nourishment and retention projects. Growing up in Oceanside, I always took the beach for granted, but during a recent KOCT roundtable special on sand, starring our own Mayor Esther Sanchez and Councilman Ryan Keim, Bob Guza, a Scripps oceanographer, summed up the situation we're facing here in Oceanside when he said, "The beach is infrastructure." He compared it to a freeway. If you find the freeway useful, you have to maintain it. Most city councils don't have the opportunity to do something as important as restore public beaches because most cities don't have a resource as precious as the beach. Hopefully, years from now, you'll be at an art fair or a local shop, and you'll see an artist depiction, like the one here, of a beach in Oceanside that does not currently exist, and you'll have the satisfaction of knowing that you saved that beach. Thank you.
Thank you. Tor?
Honorable Mayor and council members, thank you for coming to my rescue. I thought I was being 86 before when I saw my name up there. Thank you. I respectfully urge you all, city council members, to vote for the approval of Phase 2. This issue is one of the most important issues facing this city in years. The increasing erosion of beach sand and creeping encroachment of the ocean. I am writing this email as an individual and not representing any group. Our family has lived on South Pacific and South Oceanside for nearly 50 years, and I can attest to both the good years and the bad years of sand buildup and erosion. We're in the bad period, and you needn't be a scientist to recognize this. The most important natural assets Oceanside has are the ocean, the sand, and the weather. You modify negatively any one of these, and you present the city with a potential dire consequences. We're experiencing that right now, and all the people of Oceanside are losing out. I repeat, all. My message is very simple. Do the most you can as quickly as you can. Anything is better than nothing. All of Oceanside is calling for help. Obviously, this is a subjective matter for all, and no doubt we all have varying views. Over the 50 years of living on the beach, my views have changed. At one time, I was opposed to dredging sand, excuse me, on the beach because I felt it was like a giant hourglass. Fill it in at the top and out it goes at the bottom, along with millions of public dollars. My conclusions come from knowing that the three treasured assets of Oceanside, the ocean, the sand, and the weather, are such because they create beautiful panoramic views, magnets to draw in and reward the population of Oceanside. My recommendations are think big, and that also means initiating pressure and action against the federal government / Marine Corps, the prime causation of the loss of sand. This should have been done 40 to 30 years ago. Why are you waiting? As the GHD study shows, and which I recommend, submerged reefs cost much more, but they give you the most sand, and that will be priceless to Oceanside. All of Oceanside for years to come will use this treasure. Be bold, but if you can't, do something. Vote for approval of Phase 2. I'll finish. The Coastal Act was enacted to protect the coast and open beaches to the public. You need to stand to that. Hell, if we could go to the moon, we surely can put sand back.
Thank you. Mr. Krasik?
Yes, thank you. 54 years old, and I've basically no college education, barely went to high school because I was going to the beach. I've watched the sand my entire life as it always makes the good waves. I just want to point out a few things that I've noticed. That from Costa Rica to Alaska, the coastline is eroding. In Costa Rica, my house had no development around it. They were deforesting the mountain, which was making extra sediment come into the estuary and rivers. The beach is still eroded, and I lost my house in '97. Focusing on the harbor is just one grain of sand. for this problem. It's much bigger than the harbor. So I would like to suggest considering opening up the rivers by bulldozing out some trees so when it rains, that sand can come down. Strategic reef placements is ultimately the way I see us protecting South Oceanside. An offshore reef to focus the swell onto another reef inside that takes the impact. That's the only way that we're going to be able to have anything like a beach, because the ocean's rising and it's a big ocean. No amount of money is going to save the beach. So we need to think about building an artificial beach. We basically have to build some kind of groin or something, and we have to hide sand in behind there if Oceanside's ever going to have a beach. Spending $2.5 million on a consulting firm, I'll do it for $20. That being said, that's all I have to put in, so thank you.
Thank you, and you were number 18, so that's it, right?
That is it. However, we do have,
Oh, wait a minute.
we did have a rep from Assemblywoman Lori Davis's office deliver a letter to the council, which is being distributed right now in support of the phase 2. And that concludes our speakers.
Okay, thank you. All right, so to the council, Councilmember Robinson.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got 4 questions for staff and Jamie. I think you'll probably get stuck with these, so let me. Problem is, what order do I want to ask them? Has the city set its mind or sights on any one particular solution?
So we are, so the answer is no. We are soliciting designs from innovative design teams from across the world.
No is good on this one.
Okay.
Second question is there any, in the phase 2, what you're just talking about, is there any limits being placed on the creativity of the solutions?
There will be design criteria that the firms will have to adhere to. So there will be limitations geographically, financially, and with materials.
Okay. And this other one's a little bit hypothetical, I guess, but you kind of started off talking about, excuse me, how this problem was created with the boat basin and the harbor. If we were to tear that out tomorrow, would our sand problem go away?
We would have a more natural flow of sediment from areas that naturally flow around Camp Pendleton. So Santa Margarita River would flow and bring sediment to our shoreline. So yes, we would have a more natural condition, but not entirely natural.
It's okay. We'd probably have a lot more speakers if we did that. And lastly, and I'm not sure if you want to answer this or somebody, but I heard a lot about our need to work with our cities to the south, and I'll even invite Deputy Mayor Keim to comment. Have any of our neighbors to the south come to us and said, gee, Oceanside, we see you have a problem. We'd really like to work with you?
Well, we did receive 2 letters today from in support of the Phase 2 project from the city of Del Mar and from the city of Solana Beach. But have they come to us to ask to be partners? We work with City of Carlsbad on the Buena Vista Restoration Project, which will have eventually a sand nourishment component to it, and we do work with them collaboratively. Aside from that, we work with Sandag on regional beach sand projects, and we work collaboratively with San Diego County on that. Through the Shoreline Preservation Working Group.
Thank you for those answers, and with that, I'll move adoption of Phase 2.
No other lights? Councilmember Joyce.
Okay, I have a couple questions as well. How soon would the scoop permit be operational? Do we have any idea?
The scoop permits are current. So we can, as soon as we have an opportunistic sand source, we can place sand. We have to go through the process of letting the Coastal Commission know of our intentions, as well as the Army Corps. But we have our scoop permits. We just don't have sand available.
So if this were to be, if this were to go ahead tonight, would we be waiting to put any sand? Because this is a long-term process. This is a multi-year process. Are we going to be putting on sand on our beaches before the end of the process?
The idea behind going offshore and looking for sand nourishment options for sand sources offshore is to enable future use of our scoop permits. So the answer is yes, we can. If we can find an ideal sand source that we can get from offshore, we'll have to permit the removal of that sand as well. So that scoop permits do not allow us to go and grab sand from anywhere. They allow us to place the sand. Mm-hmm. So we would still have to get a permit to grab the sand from offshore areas, but we can place sand under those scoop permits. So we are waiting for opportunities. And by waiting, I mean we are actively looking. We're letting every city know and that we have an option to stockpile sand and that we can place that sand on our beaches under our scoop permits. And we internally have been developing our scoop program so that we are ready when we do have sand available.
Okay.
Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
And so you, no matter what happens tonight, you will continue that work either way.
Yes.
Okay. Can I ask why we are studying the littoral cell? What is the value in that work? Because I think that has a big role in our regional development and how we're going to impact other cities.
So we're studying the littoral cell because we want to be clear about how sand flows in Oceanside. It's not entirely clear how much sand moves south. We are, as I mentioned, very reliant on getting the sand out of the harbor and putting it on our beaches, and that is pretty much the main source of sand for us, outside of some small deposits that we get from the San Luis Rey River. A lot of that sand in San Luis Rey is choked by sand. So we get a majority of it from our maintenance efforts. So we'd like to see where we can place where we can place a retention structure to be most ideal for any sand that we place. So we want to make sure that we're not impeding sand flow from north to south or impeding sand flow from south to north. And we really need to understand that subcell, which is what we believe to be between South Jetty and Agua Hedionda Tamarack Jetty. We believe that's our subcell, which is where the sand kind of resides and goes back and forth. And that it may not necessarily go any further. Our sand may not necessarily go any further beyond that.
So we are not certain that our sand is impacting, say, Encinitas or Solana Beach or Del Mar. The point of the study, I'm asking, is to really get a better understanding of that impact, even though, yes, for decades we've been looking at that. That's the way science works, and we are still in the process of learning.
Right, and we want to make sure that whatever retention structure we design is in line with that new understanding. Right now, we have estimates of how much sand flows south from our beaches that are from the 80s and 90s, and they aren't field verified. So we want to update that and understand that better before we place anything that retains sand.
Okay, thank you. I do want to thank staff. This is a very important decision. It's a long-lasting decision. I love seeing the public engaged in science at any point in time, but it is very technical, and so there was a lot of information thrown around tonight, and I think it's really important to make sure that we are all trying to learn, but recognizing that this is a very technical matter and that we do in some ways need to work within the science that we understand. And in this instance, we're trying to build a better understanding. So a couple of my concerns, Number one is this is ARPA funding, and the ARPA funding was supposed to go to helping our community recover after the pandemic. I recognize that most of you are here and that doesn't matter as much to your decision whether it's sand or not sand, but the fact is this funding was supposed to support our community's recovery from the pandemic, and using it in this manner is something that I am critical of. I do hope that we look at our current plan funding using the ARPA funds, because we do have communities that are in need. And while I heard a lot of people tonight say that our beaches are our number one commodity, I would actually say that our people are our number one commodity, and our beaches are are really important too. But we got to make sure that we're taking care of our people with this money that was designed to take care of those people. I do have environmental concerns because we're talking about structures and we're talking about sand, and that this is a lasting legacy impact. We heard that a lot tonight. The legacy on both sides, making sure that when we make a decision with this, if we're making a positive impact on our beaches, I want this solution to outlive me, at least. And I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I want it to outlive me. I want it to be there for my children. That, I think, was brought up by a couple of speakers, and I think it's a really important part that we should incorporate into phase 2, making sure that we understand how long these solutions are supposed to last, given what we know about climate change and about the sea level rise. The positives is that looking at this, doing nothing and just doing sand replenishment is probably not even treading water. And we have to have a serious conversation about what our coastline is going to look like, because it is a very big part of our life. The science that we're going to gain from a possible phase 2 is really important as well. The other point is that in December, we will have a decision point. There will be brought back a design that will either check the boxes and get through permitting or not. And that is not, we will not have spent 2.5 or 6.
2.6.
We will not have spent that much money in December. We will have spent a portion of it. The coastal zone administrator is another positive. Everyone I talk to that is in the science of studying our coast takes our coastal zone administrator, Jamie Timberlake, very seriously. It is she is an asset to the city, and it brings me calm and reassurance in this project because you were leading it. Thank you. The environmental and compliance and permitting are included in this project. So while I have tons of concerns about anything getting through those permitting regulations, recognizing that that is built into the project itself is, again, something that is reassuring about the plan. At the end of everything, most everything that was wrong with phase 1, and with all due respect, I am critical of phase 1 because it was rushed, because it was not in consultation with the cities to our south, and that caused a very big reaction to our proposed plan. Phase 2 has fixed a lot of those issues. Oceanside's historical mistakes of overdevelopment near our coastal, on our coastal areas are something that require us now to act. And honestly, we don't know if this is going to come up with a solution that meets what we're asking for. That is a low impact enough to the environment, ecologically responsible to the next generation. We don't know if that's going to happen when they come back at the end of this first process. But I think, given the whole situation, that I think it's a good idea for us to start at least looking into it. Thank you.
So before I recognize Councilmember Weiss, I do want to make some comments. I have been working with the North Coastal cities since I was appointed to the Shoreline Preservation Committee, and while I'm not the appointed representative, I continue to work with the city, with the cities, as well as attend all the meetings and talk to our representatives before, after, during, whatever. It was after the second regional sand replenishment project that I really pushed hard for our own program, aside from the dredging, just like Solana Beach and other cities. The other cities do have relationships with the Army Corps, and each one has their own dredging program, but they do more, right? They do more than that. And I feel that we have just waited so long to put sand on our beaches, and I think it's a huge travesty that we have not done anything about putting sand on our beach other than focus on groins. Three cities have actually applied for sand replenishment projects well after we started our looking into this, and they've all been approved by the federals and received federal funds and just about the rest of it covered by the state, paying very little to be able to put sand on their beaches. And I'm talking about Solana Beach, Encinitas, and most recently the city of San Clemente, who barely just asked for the sand and actually got it granted, got the funds, and are moving forward. And we still are holding on to I don't know what. I know that the cities, I've contacted the cities, and they continue to be against groins. There's no mincing of words. They basically have said, really, really happy that the city is wanting to work with us. That is something that came out of the shoreline. That's where all the cities, including myself, said, listen, we need to work together as a North Coastal region. We need to work together on getting sand on our beaches. And that is precisely, to answer your question about have they approached us about working together, Rick, yes, they have. Yes, they have very many times. And in fact, we are building together the mayor's committee so that we will actually focus on supporting this. I had 2 days, a briefing 2 days before the agenda and the staff reports came out. I'm sorry to say that I didn't have a bigger heads up, or a longer heads up, because I think I could have contributed to the report. As I said, I've attended the shoreline preservations, actually the regional, the sand replenishment projects 1 and 2. I was the biggest advocate and continue to be the biggest advocate for region, for the third one that's coming up. And again, I've worked with all the cities. I read the report, and I actually, and then because I had the 2 briefings, I actually asked for another briefing. It's very clear to me that groins are part of this, that they have not been eliminated. And I think because of that, it continues to be a controversial project. Again, I talked to the cities, and we're all in agreement that groins will not be supported. We did receive letters from Surfrider, City of Del Mar, basically saying, remember, this is our resolution against groins, but we look forward to working with the city on other innovative ways of getting sand on our beach. From Marco Gonzalez, from Sierra Club, Solana Beach, again, very clear against groins. It does appear that the North Coastal cities will continue to oppose the groins. We all are in agreement that we need to have sand on our beach. The Phase 1 did say that Carlsbad got between 100,000 and 200,000 cubic yards of sand from Oceanside. We've all agreed at Sand Egg Shoreline that it is a river of sand. It flows primarily from north to south. I know some people said, oh, no, it goes out and comes back and whatever. But primarily, it does go that way. It would be a huge to try to mitigate, if we were to retain all the sand, to mitigate, that sand that would not get to Carlsbad. Former Mayor Matt Hall and I did talk at the Buena Vista Lagoon Joint Powers Authority about the opportunities for working together via the Buena Vista Lagoon and maybe creating a sand bypass system. And, we really want to work together. And unfortunately, it just seems like, because everybody was surprised by this. It was like, what, I did attend the joint meeting of the League of California Cities and the California Coastal Commission. Not much has changed there, and with respect to hard structures. And I have served on the California Coastal Commission, 2009 to 2013. So I do have a sense of the Coastal Commission. It is, first of all, a quasi-judicial board. It's like going to court. They're not going to be able to serve as judges on this project. It would be totally inappropriate for them to do that. So I think that suggestion was kind of really out of order. That's what I wanted to be able to say is like, please don't put that out there in a report that is just really kind of out there. I just want to say I'm going to say the same thing that I said before during Project One. I cannot support groins at all. I urge staff to leave that out, to really work on other ways of retaining sand on our beach. Because if you do that, if you keep and it ends up being the project that gets chosen, there is no way it's going to happen. And I'm really, really hugely disappointed that by December, we will, I guess you're hearing, we're not going to spend all of the, right now, 2.6 million, add the 1 million before, so that's 3.6, close to 4 million out of 5 million, just studies and not one grain of sand on our beach. We owe it to our residents. We owe it to our residents to have sand on our beaches, not wait around until, all these studies are completed. It could be years. It could be years. We need it now, and we need to do a sand replenishment project now. Absolutely. I feel that we would get that project approved, we would get the federal funding, and we would get state funding for the rest of it. We wouldn't be having to spend millions of dollars just waiting around to see, when, are we going to outlive the opposition to groins? We're not going to. We're just not going to. I think we need to come together. That, I think, is the solution that will bring us a kumbaya. I am kind of tired of this divisiveness that is inherent in this this study, and I'm hoping that with staff like reading this, the tea leaves or whatever, that we need to move away from the groins and to something else that is really going to maintain our character for the city of Oceanside. That includes surfing, and that is a big, big issue here. So that's what I'm gonna. That's my decision is going to be no on the groins, yes on sand replenishment, and an alternative that will not include hard structures. Councilmember Weiss.
Mr. Borrego, if I recall, the Corps of Engineers has been tasked with coming up with a assessment and study for the construction of the boat basin. How long have we been waiting for that study to get completed? 30 years?
Yes, Honorable Mayor, it's been about that long, yes.
Thank you. I support this project going forward, looking at alternatives. It's interesting because in the staff report on the first page, we have had over 20 million cubic yards of sand artificially placed on oceanside beaches. Where is it? What's the definition of insanity? Keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, hoping for a different result. To keep just dumping sand on the beach and hoping for a different result is to me, is a definition of insanity. 20 million cubic yards, the spread over a 3-mile coast at 6 feet deep would give us almost a mile of beach out into the ocean. That is a lot of sand that we have put on the beach only to have it lost. So I do support coming back with alternatives. We're not picking an alternative, and I support the scope of work that's presented to the council.
Deputy Mayor Keim.
Just have a few questions for staff to clear up some misunderstandings and things I heard tonight. as a member of the Shoreline Preservation Working Group, I know we are working on a regional beach stand replenishment project right now, correct? So we're doing it simultaneously. We can do this isn't a zero-sum game. We can do both at the same time. About 10 years ago, we did the regional beach stand project too, correct?
2020 or 2012.
Just approximately 10 years ago. So where was the second largest loss of sand after that 200-something cubic yards of sand, 200-something thousand cubic yards of sand was dumped?
South Oceanside.
South Oceanside. And where did that sand go?
It went to North Carlsbad.
And why did that sand go to North Carlsbad and stay there?
It does, the parts of our coastline do move south.
Why was it retained there in South Carlsbad or in North Carlsbad?
There is a jetty at Agua Hedionda to keep the Agua Hedionda Lagoon open. And so there have been studies and.
So it's good.
Yes.
We don't need to elaborate too long. Do you think is a significant portion of why Carlsbad has such healthy beaches, those groins at the mouth of that lagoon?
It's been thought that is possibly a reason. Yeah.
Okay. So, and how many of those, although they're not built for sand replenish or retention, how many does Carlsbad have? About 6?
So technically they have jetties.
Do they have rocks that go out into the ocean?
Yes, they
and
do.
Do they retain sand?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they do.
Okay. So we've had 2 large regional beach sand projects in the last 20 years, and we haven't retained any of that sand. We're in worse positions than before we did that. So in your opinion, is just replenishment working?
No.
Okay. So going on, I want to address some of the comments I heard about living shorelines, and it's a great thing. We have Ms. Timberlake, who, you were the project manager for Encinitas for those, for the living shoreline?
Yeah, I was the coastal zone administrator for Encinitas before this, and GHD was the designer of the Cardiff Living Shoreline.
Okay. Do those living shorelines have rocks or hard structures underneath that sand?
Yes, the living shoreline is comprised of a 20-foot deep revetment that spans about a mile long along the Cardiff
so essentially
shoreline.
A buried groin.
Yes, it's buried revetment.
Okay, so it's a hard structure.
Hard and soft. Yep, hard on the bottom and soft on the top.
So for Oceanside, with the current state of our beaches, if we wanted to today, could we do what they did in Encinitas?
We could do it in portions of Oceanside where we have sand still present.
So how about south of Wisconsin Street where we don't have any dry sand? Could we do that project there?
No, it requires a nature-based solution, requires natural resources.
Could that be an option down the road if we're able to build up healthy beaches?
Yeah, I think so.
So, and here's another thing, and I had heard this when I was doing the roundtable for KOCT, and I was talking in 40 years, which is a reasonable time to predict sea level rise, and there was a comment that it's irresponsible just to do this for 40 years. This is a capital infrastructure project, whatever it is. We don't build police stations, we don't build sports stadiums, or anything to last forever. 40 years is a typical lifespan of a capital infrastructure project. Mr. Braga, would you agree? 40, 50 years?
Yes, I would. And Deputy Mayor Keim, actually, there is one point that I would like to clarify as well, if I get the opportunity.
Absolutely.
So I want to make it very clear, and staff was very deliberate in terms of the program that we brought to City Council and the public for this next phase of the project. Obviously, we're very sensitive to the issue of groins. That was made very clear to us following phase 1 of the study. It is a little disheartening to hear members of the public continue to portray this as a groin project. If you read GHD's proposal for phase 2, groins are not mentioned once. The idea is to take a step back and look at more innovative solutions. We're going to be reaching out and looking for innovative solutions, reaching out to firms that can bring innovative solutions to the table. I don't expect that a firm that is interested in doing a traditional groin project is going to fit that bill. So we are very much aware of that sensitivity. And so I just want to make that point very clear, because from staff's perspective, that's not the direction that we see this project going.
Okay, well, you just stole the next part of my comments, but that's an important thing and that's coming back. We have worked extensively with our neighboring cities. And I'll tell you one thing that's challenging for me. We are the second lowest median income city on the coast in San Diego County. Our beaches are our #1 recreational activity for our residents. And we don't have anything. And for one of our city leaders to stand up there and advocate for other cities south of us and not advocate for a solution in our city has made this very challenging. And I hope we can get away from that. And it's going to be a regional solution. And I'm looking forward to working with the region and coming up with a creative solution. I'm very happy we have Jamie on board. I think this is a great start. We owe it to our residents to have healthy beaches, whatever sea level rise brings us. And I guess I'll finish with a couple last questions. So we don't know what sea level rise is going to be, Ms. Timberlake, correct?
Well, we have projections, yes.
Projections, but we don't know for sure. We can't tell it's going to be this high at this year.
Yeah, right.
What is the most practical and affordable way to address any type of sea level rise right now? Is it by building healthy beaches? Would you agree?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to go for now, and we can plan in the meantime.
Okay.
After we have some kind of structure or sandy beach and/or both, hopefully.
Okay. I want to assure everyone listening, whether you're from Oceanside or not, I am not going to move forward or approve a project that causes the same issues to our down coast neighbors as we're dealing with. It's our duty to be responsible, make sure we have a solution that works for everyone. And if we can introduce more sand into the littoral cell, that'll help Carlsbad, Encinitas, Solana Beach, and Del Mar. It's a win for everyone. And that's why I'm hoping this design competition brings back is ways that we can do that. We can tap in to the sand north of the harbor, bring it down, and give it to everyone's beaches. I mean, one of the hardest hit beaches was South Carlsbad. We came in at #2 in Oceanside, but everyone's feeling this, and we need to be a team player. And I think that's what this project that's brought for us today is doing. So I'm very happy to second the motion. I'm hoping tonight we can get a unanimous decision and move forward as a team. I think that's what we need to do. Show the whole region that we're operating as a team. We want the best solution for everyone, and we want to get it done. We have to do something now. It's been too long. The mayor, I agree with her. It's been way too long. We've sat by. Other cities have projects going, and we need to do something. So I want to also thank everyone who came out tonight and staff for all the hard work in this. I know it's not easy, but I think you did a fantastic job. Thank you.
Councilmember Joyce?
Just a few brief comments. Again, with like talking about scientific
50 seconds, by the way.
All right, I'll be real fast. Scientific considerations are nuanced. So while I understand we want to consider everybody's time, including my 50 seconds, we should let the science speak and have nuanced conversations about what we're talking about. We're going to have to do that to do this the right way. So I would just ask that we let the folks who are speaking for the science speak out. I do support the science and collaboration within this project, and please do not oversimplify this for political sake.
Thank you. And I just want to add, I think I have a minute, that it sounds like everyone is saying no groins. So my comment is to vote no on the groins and move forward with the sand replenishment. And, no on groins, no on hard structures, and move forward on the other stuff. Sounds like, we're all in agreement, right? So that's what, Councilmember Weiss.
I'm approving the scope of work that's in the RFP, not necessarily saying no groins. That, as the city manager mentioned, it's not mentioned in here, but whatever they come back with through this process is what I'm interested in seeing.
Great, thank you. And during my briefing, I actually heard it was either Mr. Borrego or Ms. Timberlake say that three projects will be coming back to the council, and one could be a groin project, and then maybe two, and the other one could be a artificial reef project. So bottom line is, if what I'm hearing now is different from the briefing that I got, that it's no on the groins, I am actually thrilled. So let's vote.
I have my light on, ma'am.
You just put your light on.
Okay.
Let's vote. excuse me, no,
Oh, you're a no?
no,
Revote?
no. Okay, I want the record to, sorry, my vote is no, an absolute no on the groins and hard structures, and yes on the balance. Thank you. I know, that's what my vote is.
Point of order, could we clarify the vote and?
No, the vote is, no.
No, the vote and the motion I seconded was for staff's recommendation. I want to make sure, stop. I want to make sure.
Then my vote,
Should we?
Excuse me.
Should we?
Could everyone quiet down? We're not finished
excuse
yet.
me, I always state, let the record reflect. So my vote is no on the groins and hard structures and yes on the balance.
So that's a no on the motion, so you should vote no if that's how you feel. The motion was to recommend staff's recommendation, Mayor.
Next item is item number 24. Approval of a professional services agreement with Kimberly Horn and Associates in an amount not to exceed $2 million for the design of the initial phase of the Coast Highway Corridor Project, appropriation of $1.8 million from the Thoroughfare and Signal Program Assigned Fund, and authorization for the city manager to execute the agreement.
Can we take a brief recess, please?
All right, there's a request for a break. We'll be back at 1:15. Thank you. I was calling. I had called item number 24. Please take your seats. We're taking up item number 29 after this one, after 24. So here we go. On 24, I'd already called item number 24. And so we do have a report by Brian Thomas, our city engineer, Mr. Thomas, who doesn't look at all like Darrell Woods. Okay.
I think her husband would be happy about that. Thank you, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. Brian Thomas, city engineer. The item before you tonight is consideration of a professional services agreement with Kimberly Horn and Associates for the design of the initial phase of Coast Highway Corridor Project. With me tonight, we have additional members of staff to address any questions, as well as representatives of Kimberly Horn and UDEC. Staff is recommending award of the initial design contract to Kimberly Horn and Associates for a not to exceed amount of just over $2 million. Staff is also recommending appropriation of $1.8 million from the Thoroughfare and Signal Program Assigned Fund to help cover these costs. Lastly, staff is recommending City Council authorize the city manager to execute the agreement upon receipt of all related documents. In 2009, City Council adopted the Coast Highway Vision Strategic Plan, approved a professional service agreement for the Coast Highway Corridor Study Environmental Impact Report in 2013, provided direction to analyze alternate 1 as outlined in the EIR document, and approved implementation of alternate 3 as outlined in the EIR over implementation of alternate 1 in 2019. As a brief refresher, alternate 1 features along the 3.5-mile stretch of Coast Highway, a reduction of travel lanes from 2 lanes in each direction to 1 lane in each direction, with said lanes being separated by a raised median. Proposed project scope before you tonight includes entitlement, permitting, and design services required to implement a portion of alternate 3 along the corridor. Alternate 3 proposes a road diet of mid-block crosswalks, roundabouts at select locations, streetscape features that create space in the public right-of-way for bicycle facilities, improve sidewalks, and additional landscaping. Alternate 3 does not change highway lane configuration from Moore Street to the south city limits at this time. This section would remain 2 lanes in each direction. The objectives of the project is to transform Coast Highway into a vibrant corridor. utilizing the livable communities and smart growth principles along with complete street accommodations. Some of these benefits include enhanced pedestrian and outdoor dining experiences. Work will commence just south of State Highway 76 and will terminate just south of Oceanside Boulevard. Future phases will look at enhancements from Moore Street to the south city limits. As mentioned previously, in order to implement the road diet, travel lanes will be reduced from 2 lanes in each direction to 1 lane in each direction. They will be separated by a raised median, include bicycle lanes, bicycle buffers, mid-block crosswalks, series of traffic roundabouts. Part of the design efforts, staff will be working with NCTD to address bus system impacts. Parking restrictions for bus accessibility will need to be addressed in the overall design approach in an effort to accommodate as many multimodal transit devices as possible. As noted, roundabouts will help to reduce serious injuries and fatalities received in traffic collisions and will also help to reduce vehicle idling emissions during wait times at traffic signals. This is what the proposed cross-section of the street would look like. The initial limits for Coast Highway between State Route 76 and Wisconsin Avenue. Several additional optional tasks were included in the RFP to possibly extend the limits of the scope of the project. As additional funds were made available, the limits of the project were extended to include Wisconsin Boulevard to Oceanside Boulevard. Included design services include adding a roundabout at Wisconsin Avenue, West Street to Oceanside Boulevard, including a roundabout at West Street, bidding and construction support services. Initially, a roundabout was proposed at State Highway 76, but was removed from the project. Design efforts, as this would require Caltrans involvement, which could delay design and project implementation. Here are the associated tasks with tonight's professional service agreement. As noted, we anticipate commencing design in early spring with an estimated time frame of 18 months. Completion of the design is predicated upon approval and permitting subject to the California Coastal Commission oversight. As I mentioned earlier, we do have planning staff available to address questions specific to the Coastal Commission's involvement of the approval process. As noted on the first slide, the design contract is with Kimley Horn for a not to exceed amount of $2,065,200. The current project balance in the assigned fund is approximately $1.3 million. As a condition of approval, a local developer was conditioned to design and construct improvements to College Boulevard Bridge. As a result, money set aside for this in our thoroughfare and signals assigned fund CIP project can be reprogrammed to cover the added cost for the Coast Highway Corridor project as a regionally significant project. The EIR document was certified in August of 2019. So lastly, in conclusion, staff is recommending the award of the initial contract for design to Kimley Horn and Associates for not to exceed amount of $2,065,200. Staff is also recommending the appropriation of $1.8 million from the Thoroughfare and Signal Fund to help cover these costs. And lastly, staff is recommending City Council authorize the city manager to execute the agreement upon receipt of all related documents. Staff is available for questions at this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. How many requests to speak on this item?
We have 2 requests to speak on this
Okay,
item.
let's hear from them.
All right. Our first speaker is Mitch Silverstein, to be followed by Joan Bachman.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, Mitch Silverstein. Speaking as a new resident of South Oceanside, not with my Surfrider hat on, although I'm sure Surfrider would probably support what I'm saying, but I don't want to assume anything. So just speaking as a resident, I recently moved to South Oceanside from OB and San Diego. Really like this community. I think there's a lot to love. I really, you know, what Councilmember Joyce said, that the people are the biggest, the best asset of this community, and I'm proud to be one, even if it's been not too long. First thing I noticed, I live on Eaton Street. It's basically right north of Lagoon, right when Carlsbad Boulevard has a 2-way protected bike lane that that when you're riding that way, you instantly, to not die basically on a bike, you've got to hang a left right away and get on the spotty coastal rail trail that, isn't there where it needs to be, but that's a different thing. So I just want to support this item. I think it's a step. It's a necessary step to get where we need to be, to have a coast highway corridor that's actually not just for vehicles, but also works for people, that's walkable, that's livable, that works for local businesses, that has more infill development, more housing. There's just so much potential to Coast Highway, and I live right there. It's the first thing I noticed. I like to ride my bike anytime I can. I also drive too. I'm not part of the bike mafia or whatever you want to call it. I do both, but anytime it's less than a few miles, 5 miles, I try to ride my bike. That's what I am proud of that. I think it's a good way to try to mitigate my own climate emissions. And I really think we've got great weather. And if we had better bike infrastructure throughout the city, especially near the coast, because, no matter, really everywhere, actually. I don't want to be only coastal. That's not fair. But the coast is where a lot of people want to be. And there needs to be more housing, just like the housing project that was heard earlier tonight. I agree, not enough affordable housing, but we need that housing and we need it near transit and all that. So the one thing I just want to stress, or two things actually, is one, I really hope to see protected Class 3 bike lanes with any kind of separation. Coast Highway right now only has separated bike lanes, maybe like not even a quarter mile in South Oceanside. That's it. And it's just painted space. But it still helps. It's still better than the death zone. And then secondly, for all the streetscape, the medians and all that, the roundabouts, I support it all. But for all the landscaping, we don't need any more palm trees. And we don't need any more eucalyptus trees. Let's have real trees that are either native and drought tolerant and actually provide shade and are beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bachman.
Joan Bachman. Mitch sounds more like the South O residents that I was talking to when other people were here and getting them out of this plan, and that's very sad for South O. And I'm glad to hear future enhancements could advance it through South O, which is what they need. I spend a lot of time on Coast Highway. It's my neighborhood. This is where I live. It's where I raise my kids. It's where I am. I don't go west of 5 that much. And so I observe traffic. I've always observed traffic. And as you know, I've said many times, I drive streets at the speed to which they're designed. And Coast Highway through South O specifically is 35 miles an hour or 40, depending. And the stops are usually due to the stops at lights and when the Sprinter goes through. We can't do anything about the Sprinter. We like the Sprinter. We want to keep that. But the lights is where the traffic backs up, and then a slug goes through. And you can always know it's the light because there's a big slug at the light, and then there's this open space. So when you're sitting at Moore's complaining that it's too traffic and we got to have 2 lanes, you look in front of you and there's open space. So the other time is when there's a backup on I-5. And the reason Coast Highway backs up is because people see it as an alternative to I-5. So this project solves both problems. It gets rid of some of the lights, puts in roundabouts and that, which I wish we were doing all of them. And it also dissuades people from using Coast Highway as I-5 West. It's not I-5 West, and we want it to stop being I-5 West. So I urge approval of this, and someday I would like to get us to slow and continuous movement through the entire downtown area with no stops. And someday we'll get there. And then the bikes will be happy too. Everyone will be happy. Slow and continuous, you will get there just as fast. Thank you.
Thank you. No other requests to speak. Back to the council. Councilmember Weiss.
Move approval, staff recommendation.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. I continue to have my concerns about, Councilmember Joyce, sorry. Didn't see the light.
It's all right.
It's
fast. Latecomer.
Watch that.
Just wanted to ask, the current visual that we saw for the bike lanes, is there an alternative for protected bike lanes in this design?
Honorable Mayor, City Council members, Councilmember Joyce, sky's the limit. And this is just an initial study for what was in the original EIR documents. So as we get into the design, we can look at all the various options before we move forward with a set reason or a set program. One of the items that the consultant is required to do is have a series of public outreach meetings with the community to find out what works best for the community along the corridor.
Okay, thank you. So I, for one, am excited about this. Making downtown more bicycle and people-friendly versus car-friendly is an exciting prospect. It's equitable. Low-income workers are more likely to use bicycles to get to work or to walk to work, and so it is an equitable action. It can help us meet our climate action goals, which is really important as well as a city. I too am looking at South Oda, wondering if they're going to see what's happening in downtown and want to be part of it. And then just again, with the bikes, we don't have a large influx of e-bikes in our city right now. We do have some. There are other parts of North County where e-bikes are everywhere. And every time we are redesigning our streets, I want us to be thinking ahead and not building it for what we have right now, which is not a ton of e-bikes, but for the possibility and for what transport within our city could look like. So with that, I look forward to supporting them.
Councilmember Robinson.
Yeah, real quick, thank you. I'm going to support this. I'm a big fan of traffic circles. I think they're great. And for those folks, and I don't think there's many here that think that Hill Street is changing a lot. Oh, did I say Hill Street?
Yeah, you did.
So our
main
Coast
drag.
Highway has been changing for years, and I think this is a great next step. Thank you.
Okay, my concerns. And am I hearing that we're not stuck with the design that was made before? Is that correct? Mr.
Honorable
Thomas?
Mayor, that's correct. This is a starting point.
Okay.
We need to look and see how best to incorporate the buses. How do we incorporate parking? How do we incorporate bicycles? How do we make this a smart street? How do we make this a complete street? How do we make this a living community?
Because I will say that when this project came to us before, that was before staff came to us with the plan to accommodate 5,000 units along Coast Highway. It was also before state laws that basically are waiving a lot of the parking and would waive all of the parking if it's within a half a mile from a major transportation corridor, and trains right there. So I think that there has to be a lot of changes, and the design was to have cars park on the curve, the bike lane right next to the cars. When you open your car door to get out, that's where you were going to be able to hit, touch someone riding a bike. And I don't think there was really a plan for the future that would allow for public transportation like a bus. So I found it very difficult because everywhere I've lived, when I did, as a student, as a poor student, okay, when I didn't have a car, which was in Providence, in Rhode Island, which is Providence and Central Falls, in Washington, D.C., and San Francisco, I didn't need a car because I could jump on a bus, and buses had priority. You could rely on a bus because it was on time, it was frequent, and they had priority on the road. So it would go first through a light, for example. Traffic could be backed up, but most people decided to take the bus. And I was in D.C. before the metro, so it was bus all the way, right? So if you're telling me that this is actually going to look at alternatives to that plan, is that right? No. To the one that was, because I thought it was a very unsafe to have the bike lane pretty much unprotected, close to the traffic that would include cars, delivery trucks, buses, maybe all together, and also bikes making left turns or right, yeah, left turns. Having everybody in the same lane, that would certainly slow down the buses. And why would anybody take a bus then? I mean, there has to be a way to encourage people to take that bus and make it so that, especially during high traffic times, when most people are going to basically to the same place at the same time. That's what I've heard, that's when public trans works. So I'm going to switch my vote from no, because I had voted no on the other one, because I thought it was very unsafe, especially for cyclists. I also think that we should have some kind of barrier between cars and the bike lane. And I actually am a proponent for Class 1, that we should be finding opportunities for doing that, especially where we're not really using a lot of the road anymore. We can do separated bike paths. So I'll go, Councilmember Weiss, did you want to speak again?
I just have a question. If we wholesale change the design from what was approved in the EIR, does that jeopardize the prior environmental approval?
Yeah, and Honorable Mayor and council members, I think I would like to chime in a little bit on this one. So yes, I mean, so we do have some limited ability to kind of change what takes place within the right-of-way that we have there in terms of, you know, the width of the lanes and so forth, and kind of where we place the different elements, whether it's pedestrians, bicycles, traffic as well. We have had conversations with NCDD regarding their bus operation on Coast Highway to make sure that that we're kind of in alignment and aren't creating issues for them. That said, I don't necessarily think there's enough right-of-way to include dedicated bus lanes on Coast Highway, and I think that would result in a complete wholesale change of the design of the project. And at that point, I would agree that at that point, we'd probably have to open up the EIR again and look at the traffic impacts all over again, because the EIR that was certified was essentially based on the general concept of having 2 traffic lanes, bike lanes, and enhanced pedestrian amenities.
Thank you.
Right, but it could be changed. It could be.
Right. Well, as an example, one of the things that we've been talking about internally is to make sure that as buses travel down Coast Highway, that they can safely navigate the traffic circles, which is kind of a given, right? And then also making sure that we're designing essentially bus turnouts to allow them to safely merge out of the traffic lane and then give them enough merge clearance to safely get back into the travel lanes, because what we don't want to have is buses obviously stopping in the traffic lanes, and that defeats the whole purpose of the plan. So we do have some discretion to work on the bus to make sure that we're not interfering with the movements. And as I mentioned mentioned just now, that we have had conversations with NCD to make sure that they're part of the planning process so that we're not disrupting their bus operations.
Right. Okay, well, I'm hanging on to that we're talking about complete streets, which is definitely something that includes public transportation. I mean, this whole thing doesn't even work unless we have public transportation built in, and that is building for the future. So we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Okay, item number 29, which is a request by Councilmember Joyce and I to direct staff to amend, and I said city ordinance. Not sure if that's a city ordinance that is required, but basically direct staff to allow testimony to come back or whatever method that we're going to do this, to allow testimony at city boards, commissions, and committees virtually. Did you want to speak?
So, as mentioned earlier tonight, our boards and commissions are a big part of the work that the city does, employing the brilliance of our community in this space to make good decisions. for the city, and including voices that might have trouble getting down, and that would be ability-wise, that would be making sure that our policies are not ageist, and that would be the reason for putting this on the agenda tonight.
Thank you. And I wanted to assure my colleagues that this has nothing to do with city council meetings whatsoever, that this is about the boards and commissions and committees to be able to conduct the hearings that they need to conduct, especially one that I think we've all been hearing about, the Manufactured Home Fair Practices Commission. That is going to be holding a very, very critical hearing, one that hasn't, it's an NOI, request for an NOI, that hasn't even been heard since 1986. So it's a very critical thing for us, and we were asked by several of the community members to allow this to happen. So how many people do we have that would like to speak? Okay.
All right. Our first speaker is Stephen Sims, to be followed by Susie Russell, to be followed by Rodney Pates, to be followed by Rick Goyetti.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council member, pardon me. My name is Stephen Sims. I'm a resident of the Laguna Vista Mobile Home Estates. I'm here to ask that you approve the ability of using virtuality in connection with officials of working with our park. So that's up for approval. I hope that you can see fit to approve that. It's important to all of us. And as has come from several of you, the park is called the Jewel of Oceanside. We consider it thus as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Honorable Mayor, council members, and staff. My name is Susie Russell. I'm a resident of Laguna Vista and a member of OMA, Oceanside Manufactured Homeowners Alliance, and GSMOL, Golden State Manufactured Homeowners League. I want to thank Mayor Sanchez and Councilmember Eric Joyce for bringing item 29 to the agenda tonight. By passing this amendment, the City of Oceanside will allow compromised residents a fair option to make their case, should the need arise. In fact, virtual participation may be the only choice for those who may not be able to physically attend a hearing. If courts throughout California are conducting hearings virtually, it would seem no less burdensome for administrative hearings in the City of Oceanside to allow virtual testimony from a witness. I am requesting each council member approve this amendment to the city ordinance and permit virtual testimony at city boards, commissions, and committees. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. My name is Rodney Pates. I'm a resident at Laguna Vista also. And this NOI that is being heard for the first time, as Madam Mayor mentioned, in 28 years, is critical to the affordable housing community. There are many, many senior projects, senior parks that have affordable housing limits that this NOI will be the door that a lot of the owners try to come through should this first one be successful in their favor. Therefore, the process and exactly how it's handled is very, very critical to its end. The NOI process in itself is very problematic, technical, and extremely complex. And therefore, it's almost imperative that you have expert testimony on both sides. experts in this field are not commonplace. They're few and far between, and therefore not many of them, if any, are very local. And in order to have a good expert that can actually plead your case and have them not be local, to make them come to here could be expensive, burdensome, and therefore not necessarily fair. To have them be able to appear virtually and not have to bear the extra expense would be more reasonable. And because the cost has significantly changed from what it used to be in terms of having virtual things, with Zoom and Microsoft Teams and those kinds of things, you can do virtual testimony very easily. And many of the courts and other committees in the state of California and other jurisdictions have this as a routine to their procedures. So it's not asking a lot, and it's not a real leap. Expert testimony is really important because of such a complexity of the issues, and to allow it to occur in this instance would be a very, very fair and reasonable thing to do. Thank you for your time, and hope you vote for the motion.
Thank you.
Honorable Mayor, council members, my name is Rick Goyette, and I also represent the Homeowners Association at Laguna Vista. I just want to reiterate that we now live in a COVID-altered world where remote learning is in classrooms, remote workers all over the country and all over the world. I have a son in Taiwan who works remotely, and he can go anywhere he needs to be. This impacts, as we said, a more elderly community, and we certainly need your help in if our residents are our most important resource. This is something that you have to look at. I know you spend millions and millions of dollars on more major, the sand retention and things like that, but this affects the elder community in a significant way, and I hope you side with the residents here. Thank you.
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Sherry Lane, La Salina Mobile Village. I come here tonight basically in support of the people at the Laguna Vista, also to take and bring up a couple of issues that maybe you haven't considered. This is fair for both the park owners and also for the park homeowners, because what you're looking at is costs that are involved for both parties. And this takes and levels the playing field. It brings it down so that the professionals that are involved can take and come in and give their advice at a reduced cost or no cost to the hearing officers. And this is going to be something that's really needed, because in our day and age, we're all trying to save a buck, very simply. The second thing is that we have a lot of elderly within our parks, shut-ins, people who have disabilities, and we don't want to take and very simply preclude anybody from having input. And part of the nature of our democracy is very simple, is everybody deserves to have an input into it. This is part of our technology. Me speaking through a microphone, you voting on a screen is part of that very simple democracy, is using the technology. And this is just another step of taking and providing access to the citizens in our society. And you are helping them along. Please take that step forward and help all of us. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Shelley Parker, Rancho San Luis Rey. I agree with a lot of the things that were said here tonight. For the Manufactured Fair Practices Commission, but for all the commissions and boards and committees, I think that it would be wonderful to be able to have virtual participation, because that way all of our voices could be heard. And so I thank you, Councilmember Joyce and Mayor Sanchez, for bringing this, agendizing it. The courts still do it. There are many facets, and I think that of virtual learning and comments and participation in this world, and I would like to think that Oceanside could be one of those. We suspended a lot of things during COVID. I was sad to see that it reverted back, because I think it does limit people's voice in our city government and the way that it is run. And if we are to be inclusionary and we are to be to take barriers down, to encourage people to actually want to speak and to want to be a part of this system, I think we need to make it as easy as possible. So I would like to encourage everybody to vote yes for this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sandy Beal, to be followed by Linda Walshaw, to be followed by Diane Hansen, to be followed by Deborah Watson.
Honorable Mayor Sanchez and City Councilman, my name is Sandy Beal, and I'm the City of Oceanside Park representative and also the president of Rancho San Luis Rey Mobile Home Parks Homeowners Advisory Committee. Now that there are 2 new members on the City Council, I strongly request, better put this on, that Oceanside residents be able to participate in the council meeting via Zoom. Zoom is such an important resource. Why would you not let anyone who logs onto the meeting be seen and to speak? I live in Rancho San Luis Rey, a senior mobile home park, and we use Zoom monthly. Our homeowners participate at each meeting. Why would you not want all of your constituents to have access to the city council meetings, or any meetings for that matter? Remember, not everyone is able to make it down to City Hall. I know of people who would love to attend the meetings, but they're not able to because of physical or health concerns. Do the right thing and make it fair for every resident in Oceanside, and use Zoom the way it should be used. Thank you.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. Linda Walshaw, Mobile Home Advisory Committee. Laguna Vista's park owner is requesting a 26.67% rent increase. Nothing could be more important to these homeowners than that. This hearing is critical to their future, and it's a mystery to all of us why this is even being considered, in that their park owner already has an agreement with the City of Oceanside that requires them to keep 150 spaces for low-income buyers at all times. So having an expert witness testify on their behalf in this instance is critical to their future. And many expert witnesses, attorneys, et cetera, are not local. This is a highly specialized field of law. Their park owner's application alone is over 400 pages. It requires an expert witness to review all of these materials and respond to them appropriately. Park owners, however, often have in-house legal counsel, and they can afford to pay travel and hotel expenses for their attorneys and expert witnesses. Whoever wins this outcome can have their attorney's fees and travel expenses and everything passed on to the other party. These people can't afford that. Many mobile homeowners are seniors, veterans, disabled, and working families. Many are on fixed incomes. They cannot afford equal representation or travel and hotel expenses. Please help us keep the playing field equal for all parties. Please allow virtual testimony, and not just for this hearing, but for all hearings. This could set the precedent for all Oceanside Mobile Home Park committees and commissions, and for all the committees and commissions citywide, especially for senior communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Sanchez and City Council. My name is Diane Hansen. I am the president of the Oceanside Manufactured Homeowners Alliance, and I am here to speak on behalf of Laguna Vista. We want to support a yes vote to allow testimony. We stand with you, Laguna Vista, and understand the importance of allowing them to have an expert witness participate in their upcoming hearing before Manufactured Home Practices Commission. Last year, the new owner of Laguna Vista served legal papers on the homeowners asking for a 26.7 NOI increase. That's a net operating income increase to be applied to their rents. The outcome of this case could affect all the manufactured home parks in Oceanside. This expert witness does not live in the United States. He lives in Australia, and he cannot attend in person. His testimony is essential, and he must be able to answer questions from the commission. A recording will not allow that to happen. Please allow this testimony to be done virtually. This situation with Laguna Vista is a perfect example of why this council should amend the city's ordinance to allow virtual testimony at city boards, commissions, and committees. Please vote yes. Thank you.
Deborah Watson, to be followed by Ronald Harward, to be followed by Daniel Dominguez.
Hello again. Thank you, Mayor Sanchez and Eric Joyce, for bringing this up in tonight's meeting. This is going to happen fairly quick, we think. It's been going on for quite some time. The virtual testimony, as everyone has said, is really important. I just don't know how anybody can afford in regular people. Owners of parks are a new item. They're billionaires. They're millionaires. They aren't just the mom and pop owners anymore. We've got to really keep that in mind. Meanwhile, the people in the park, you might have people that are moving in with a higher income, but they still can't afford a $1 million home in Oceanside. That is not a good reason to bring an increase of this type to any mobile park. It's crazy, or any type for this matter. One of the things that I want to say, besides having the virtual, is that our community, I live in Laguna Vista, is really struggling with having the residents give enough money to our legal fund. We have approximately just a little over 50% of the people that have been able to donate. So we're even struggling there. We are not Mr. Ali, who owns 5 other mobile parks, at least 4, possibly 5. Now, I also, and right or wrong, if this is the right time or not, I've been heartsick at the way our park has been treated since Mr. Ali purchased it in July of 21. Number one, a loss of 20 to 30 years of our maintenance men, our lawn men. Fired 1, 2 decided to quit after a mental abuse, and then our grass used to be lush, and I mean lush, like the most expensive, beautiful grass you could find. It is now dead. We used to have flowers. You'd enter our park. It was beautiful. They're gone. They've been replaced with rock and sand. I could continue to go on. I mean, we have 4 managers in the last 2 years. It is so abusive to the residents. We don't know how they're going to act. Are they going to lock their doors? Illegal fees this new owner is charging us for. You probably only know a bit of it. That's not in the 440-some pages in the NOI. How are you going to know fairly what Mr. Ali is doing? Who's going to ask those questions? Please allow testimony from those of us that live there. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Ronald Harward? Is Ronald Harward still with us? He left? Okay. Is Daniel Dominguez still here? Mr. Dominguez? He left. And that concludes the registered speakers.
Thank you. The one thing I do want to add is the pandemic really isolated many people, especially seniors. And the one thing that I know that we all ended up learning how to do is how to use Zoom, right? I mean, I think many didn't even think that they could do it, but it helped to be engaged mentally, in terms of health, and it's empowered many people now, seniors, who want to continue to be able to participate in their government. And especially now, I know that Laguna Vista is one that has affordable housing units counted within the park, and that's 150. That was a big decision for Laguna Vista to go ahead and have individuals agree to fill out the questionnaire, to be able to say, yes, they are part of, the housing department, and being able to say, yes, these are affordable units that are counted within our RENA. And it may be that this is something that we'll end up doing for all our parks. We may end up, and that would probably protect our parks even more. But for today's purposes, Mr. Mullen, did you say it doesn't require an ordinance? It's actually just direction to staff to allow testimony?
Provided that we're talking about allowing Zoom testimony by the public only and to not allow you're talking about advisory commissions, I understand, not the council, but to not allow the commissioners to participate remotely.
Absolutely not.
Because if the petitioners, just for clarity and so the public understands, if the commissioners are allowed to participate in a remote meeting, then we're dealing with 2 very difficult statutes that we have to comply with, AB 361 and AB 2449. And there's a whole host of procedures we would have to work through. There'd be staffing costs, et cetera. And we would need resolutions and perhaps an ordinance. But for just allowing Zoom testimony, I don't think we would have to have a follow-up policy.
It's just direction to staff, right, to allow it. Okay, so the motion would be to direct staff to allow testimony at city boards, commissions, and committees virtually. Again, not the city council meetings, okay? That gets really sticky, right? And this stays completely away from any state laws that are actually sunsetting end of February, right?
Well, 361, it's sunsetting at the end of the year, but it's predicated on there being a declaration of emergency, and that's going away February 28th. So effectively, it goes away February 28th. For non-emergencies, you'd have to comply with 2449 or the original Brown Act rule, which effectively is impossible to comply with, frankly. So,
but this completely sidesteps that by just saying the testimony of.
If it's just public testimony, I'm confident we wouldn't have to comply with those. So.
Thank you. Council member, so that's my motion. Just wanted to clarify, to make sure that it's clear. It's direct staff to allow testimony at city boards, commissions, and committees virtually.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Councilmember Robinson?
Thank you. You got to it before I did. So as far as input, trust me, you've all had a lot of input. We've probably 175, 200 emails on this matter. And the majority of them, almost, I would say, the vast majority of them were about the NOI hearing and allowing the expert to testify, and I have no problem with that. I think there's still some questions about generally allowing tests, even though what I'm hearing here, I still think there's some what ifs and doubts. So what I was going to move, and maybe you'll modify your motion, is that we move forward, allow for the NOI purposes. I'm fully supportive of it for that testimony, and direct staff, give staff some time, maybe 90 days or less. I don't know what Mr. Borrego's staff would need to come back with a recommendation on, because I think there are some issues other than just Zoom, and come back and make a recommendation on how we can best facilitate and you should use those Zoom meetings. I for one, I'm not a fan of them. I like to have people in person. I enjoy the public coming here, and I know that's problematic for some, but we have a way today. I believe you can Zoom in and watch, and if you have questions, I think you have to email them in ahead of time. Am I right, Mr. Clerk?
Yeah, if there's any questions relating to Zoom or to sign up for testimony via Zoom, my office would be the one to handle it, and then we would have to develop policy on who would go first, the people that showed up in person versus the people that signed up via Zoom. But if anybody had any questions about testifying via Zoom, signing up via Zoom, my office would be handling it, and if they had any technical questions regarding Zoom, we would forward them to the IT department at the City of Oceanside.
Yeah. So thank you. So I'm all for moving forward with the NOI hearing. I think it's important, but I don't know, Mayor, if you're willing to give staff a little time to come back to us and say, these are the real things that we have to worry about.
Right. Well, how about this? I am concerned about treating everybody the same, right? So that hearing is in March, is it? So if we can come back before that, or if we can say, yes, direct staff to do this, but come back with better, with a list, with recommendations on how to conduct them going forward. Because I want to make sure that we do this equal application of the law type stuff. But we already know the date. It's March 2nd, which is why they were so anxious to make this happen. So something about having it happen, and then as soon as staff can come back with more with applicable rules, then we can apply those. So that way we don't.
I'd feel better about that. I don't know. I know there's other council.
Right. That want to speak. Okay, Councilmember Weiss.
Thank you. Just to put the fears at rest, I would suggest we bifurcate the motion, and because it's a unique hearing. What they have coming up is a unique hearing, and I'm prepared to say, grant the exception to have virtual testimony because it is something unique. And rather than have all these people and the 175 others that were emailing us wonder what's going to happen, I'd rather just make a motion to say allow the testimony because it is unique, and you got someone in Australia that it's obviously a hardship to get here, and let them testify virtually. Because with the rest of the committees and commissions, just seeing what we went through when we were doing it here, procedurally, I'd like to know what kind of impact is that going to be to staff and who's going to run it. Because when you look at the staff of some of these commissions, are they going to be able to do all the Zoom things necessary, or are we going to have Andy here coming to every committee and commission meeting? So I like the idea of coming back to us with an assessment of what it's going to take, but I think we should put these people at rest and give them what they're asking for.
Well, it also includes seniors being able to testify at other hearings, which are very, very critical at the Manufactured Fair Housing Commission and also at the Housing Commission. That's also another one. So what is your preference, Mr. Navarro, since you're going to be running these?
He's not going to be running them. He's not gonna
You're going to
be
want to
running
keep these guys happy,
Well,
right?
I could speak for my staff. My staff will be on top of this, and I do have the staff here to help us with the Manufactured Home Fair Practices Commission, and we've been doing it
Yeah, I have been doing it for
prior
a
to
while.
Zoom, and we would be more than willing to accommodate any testimony virtually. However, I can't speak for the remainder of the boards and commissions where there's only one staff member handling that. So we could approve the exception tonight to allow the testimony at the NOI hearing, and then we could work with the city attorney's office and the city manager's office and coming back with policies that could be applicable for the remainder of the commissions.
Right, and do we get into any problems legally because we're saying it's only for this one hearing?
I think there's unique circumstances that would justify allowing it in this case. The reason, we talked about this at the last meeting, is the council gave us direction originally to not allow
Right.
either remote meetings, and that we interpreted that to include virtual testimony. So we discussed that at the last meeting. So we really needed your direction to allow that. I feel that that's perfectly justifiable to allow it in this case. I think what's unclear is whether it's just for this expert or for all.
Well, for all the
for
folks.
all residents. So
Testimony is
I think
testimony.
we need you to tell us that, but just so we're clear on that. But we're happy to come back with a recommendation with the city manager's office and the city clerk's office for
Okay.
the remainder of the commission.
So the motion would be amended to say that that direct staff to allow testimony at the
Laguna Vista NOI.
Fair Practices Commission, because it might move. It may not. It may end up being continued, or maybe from that date to a different date, or have a follow-up hearing, which usually happens.
Well, we could say for any public hearing involving this particular NOI application.
Okay, and then direct staff to come back to provide recommendations on how we can have other boards, commissions, and committees to allow virtual testimony at other boards, commissions, and committees.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. Councilmember Joyce. Apologies.
I would just say I appreciate the nuance of this motion itself, especially considering staff's recommendations. But I will continue to advocate for increased participation within our commissions.
And I agree. I mean, the boards and commissions, committees are, the volunteers. You all volunteer to do this work, not paid, and you help the council air out many issues. Thus, when things come to the council, there's a lot less discussion, and it's closer. It's closer in terms of where we can go and to resolve issues and come up with a consensus. So many thanks to all the volunteers. Many thanks to everyone who does testify to ensure that we have all the facts to be able to make the best decisions. So there's a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
All right, we are, we are on public comments on off-agenda items. Do we have?
We have 6 speakers.
6.
Our first speaker is Christine Penthavile. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. To be followed by Clem Fluharty, to be followed by Jimmy Knott.
Okay, let's just wait for a minute as you all start to leave. Thank you very much for staying for the whole night with us, for spending the night with your wonderful council. Thank you. I can't pronounce your last name, sorry. Go ahead.
Now?
Yes, Ville.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, and the community of Oceanside. My name is Christine Pantavulai, and
So off, sorry about that.
I have been an EMT for over 10 years now. I am an ER tech. I work at the emergency department in Tri-City Medical Center. The hospital is in a disastrous state, despite what the hospital leaders want the community to know. Patients that are admitted to the hospital will wait hours, sometimes days, to leave the ER to go to a hospital bed within the hospital. I have seen several telemetry floors unstaffed and manned, which delays patient care. Ambulances will wait several hours to drop off their patients, and they will often drop them off on a gurney, leave them in the hallways on the gurney, the hospital gurneys, leave them in a wheelchair, take them to the waiting room, where they will continue to wait for hours because there's nowhere to put them, because our admitted patients can't leave the emergency department. We've had a meeting with our CEO in September, and he said he would work on our issues, but since then, we've never had a follow-up with him. We have a union contract expiring in March, and they have delayed bargaining. They have taken a month to just decide on meeting up with us to bargain. They refuse to communicate with the employees. They send late emails with vague answers that they copy and paste to everybody. Their phones either loop through endless transfers or lead to a voicemail box that's either full or not set up. They hold board meetings, but interrupt speakers in their 3 minutes. The newspaper wrote about Steve Dietland retiring. He's conveniently retiring the day after our union contract expires. And they listed his accomplishments as 2 of them are building a psych facility and remodeling the emergency department, which are laughable because neither have happened, but they have been talking about doing those things for years now. His pay is almost $1 million by now. And we'd rather have that $1 million could pay for 10 RNs, 12 respiratory therapists. We just need help holding our hospital executive team accountable for their failure to communicate and to provide us the means to properly serve our community. As Councilmember Eric Joyce said, the people are our #1 commodity, and they deserve better. Patient care is in crisis right now, and we need your help holding our hospital accountable. So thank you for your time. Thank you for the opportunity to have a voice, something our hospital works very hard at preventing us from having.
Thank you.
Hello, fellow council members and Mayor Sanchez and community of Oceanside. Thank you for letting us speak tonight. My name is Kimberly Fluharty. I am an advanced care technician or certified nurse assistant at Tri-City Medical Center. I'm also a member of SEIU UHW, a union. I've worked at Tri-City Medical for 5 years, and I'm an Oceanside resident my whole life. I work on the floor and all over the hospital in every department, including the ER. They call me part of the resource pool. I want to reiterate the severity of the shortage in staffing that we are dealing with and how patient care is not being prioritized and is suffering because of it. We as employees are doing our best, but we are stretched thin and can only do so much. I wanted to take time to bring awareness to you all in the community about how Tri-City is treating its employees, its heroes who tirelessly sacrificed our safety, our family safety, and the health during this pandemic. And although the world thinks the pandemic is over, we are still dealing with COVID patients every day, and we are still getting sick with no help or support from the hospital. And unlike other local businesses who gave their employees hazard bonuses or pay to honor their sacrifices during the pandemic, Tri-City showed us no such appreciation. We worked using and reusing PPE and sometimes ran out of PPE, which extremely compromised our safety and the safety of our patients who were not in the hospital for COVID. The governor recently passed the healthcare retention bonus, SB 184, with push from the union, SEIU UHW, in June of last year, and are supposed to be rolling out the bonuses from the state to its employees by March, which is designed to help keep healthcare workers from leaving the field due to burnout and other reasons. Tri-City agreed to pay a $500 matching bonus to employees, but on December 30th, the payout went out to employees except those who picked up overtime. They claimed the overtime hours we worked counted as our bonus. Those who worked overtime kept the hospital running and didn't receive a thing, while others who didn't help did. Our overtime worked isn't a bonus and should not be counted as such. This has in return made more employees leave and are planning to leave, which is supposed to help keep us in our field. Tri-City is one of the only hospitals in the state to interpret the language the extra hours worked count as a bonus. We have reached out and held a walk, a protest demanding answers on January 11th and have yet to get a response. We also had a meeting with our CEO addressing the short staffing and decline in patient care, and he responded stating, I've spoken with other CEOs and they are all dealing with the same thing. Instead of addressing the shortage to us, he basically shrugged it off as, oh well, we aren't the only ones. So we just want to ask all of the community and all of the council members if you could write a letter to the CEO and the board of directors and let them know that they need to start treating their employees fairly and that we deserve our bonuses. And by March of this year, we are going to lose our CEO, who makes over $1 million a year, and his employees are suffering mentally, physically, and financially. Thank you all for listening to us and letting us bring this to your attention. We'd really appreciate your help on this matter.
Thank you.
One more thing, if I can. Tomorrow, there will be a meeting with the board of directors, the first one since COVID shut us down. It's tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. in Assembly Room 2 and 3, and it's open to the public. And we're asking anybody and everyone to come out and support us and show us that you support your local heroes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can get the overhead there. First off, before I start there, I just wanted to say to Councilmember Joyce here is that I was told a long time ago that there were only 5 answers to any question. Yes, no, maybe, wait, and go to hell. So there's your answer for any question. Today, I'm coming before you at the request of the park representative, Wendy Bravo, who received this communication in the mail today. And it's she's at Terrace Gardens, and what's happening is this is going to cause a lot of angst and ire and fear in the park. And especially when you get down to point 1 down there where it says that violations that represent imminent threat of life, health, safety that must be corrected within 5 days or less. And there's no listing of any alternatives or help that could be given to any homeowner that may be of low income status or extreme low income status. And what really is confusing here is that we're at that time of year that we have our permissive adjustment. And what that is our health and safety inspection. In this letter, it's not too clear. Is this a Title 25 inspection that they're going to go through? Or is this a permissive adjustment health and safety inspection? This is not, clear. And if you look down the bottom of it, it wasn't signed by the person, the code enforcement officer. And that we went through this, and there's some questions on conflicting with state codes and this, that, and the other onto it, because there seems to be either made up dates and times or different levels that would take and have to be done. Because as an example, there has to be a media presentation offered within the parks. It's not even mentioned. And also, another thing is that that the people in the park, very simply, has to be with the meeting with the homeowners and also with the park representatives and also with manager and the park owner, and it's not even there.
Mr. Knott, does that mean that they want to inspect inside the homes?
What it means is that it gives them the opportunity to inspect inside the home.
That's a privacy issue.
Because if you go down to part 2, violations, go down.
Okay, Mr. Knott, do you have a copy for us? We can
Yes, I'll
follow
give
up.
this to the.
Okay, thank you very much. I definitely want to follow up on that. I've never heard of this, so thank you. Thank you for bringing that up to our attention.
Honorable Mayor and council members,
Oh,
I
yes.
could probably provide some clarification here. That notice is associated with the Title 25 inspections. And as you may know, there are 2 different inspection processes in place. The Title 25 inspections have not taken place for a number of years, but we will be reinitiating them. We did recently hire a code enforcement officer, which was approved by council to start conducting them. Certainly, we could do some additional work to get the messaging out to the residents to make sure they fully understand what the Title 25 inspections entail. It is for the exterior areas. It's not within the interior of the coaches. The distinction between our permissive mobile home park inspections and our Title 25 inspections are the annual inspections that we do for our mobile home park that we do are for the common areas. This is actually for the individual coaches themselves. And we expect to do approximately 1 or 2 parks per year.
Okay, so it's how many parks are there?
17, I believe.
So it's over several years. And
it will be. It will be.
And it's outside. It's not inside.
It's not the interior of the
Okay.
coaches. And we can certainly.
I still want to look at that and then maybe follow up.
The
Thank you
assistant
very
city
much.
clerk's making copies for the council.
Thank you.
Right, and we'll provide council with the pass-through memo explaining the program, and certainly we can make sure that we're communicating effectively to the mobile home parks that will be a part of the first round of inspections.
Thank you. Ms. Walshaw?
Good evening again. On behalf of the mobile home communities, and I've talked to OMHA and our other park representatives in all 17 parks, we respectfully request an agenda item, a city meeting, a workshop, or something on the park issues. False and inaccurate data continues to slip through the annual reports, resulting in city data that does not match the county and state numbers. This in turn affects housing, planning, and council decisions. Park reports are inaccurately reporting the number of rent control spaces, their ownership information. Leases are being counted as rent control under AB 2782 and may not be a homeowner's primary residence and not subject to City Ordinance 16B. Code enforcement violations, city parking requirements, mobile home grants are all issues being reported as problems by the park representatives. The letter here is from December 22nd. That's from the HOA at Lamplighter, and it was sent to their park owner and copied to all the city officials. Back then in December, and they have yet to receive any response. And what this letter generally pertains to is the fact that all of their guest parking has been confiscated by their park owner for rental spaces for profit, including their handicap spaces. This happened once before at Mission View Manor, and that was handled with a phone call from city officials and staff to the park owner and with a follow-up visit by a code officer. These things are falling through a hole, and we can fix this if we can just have some kind of meeting where all the park reps can report their issues to you and come up with some plan to resolve some of these issues.
Thank you. Do you have a copy for us?
Yes, I'm going to
Okay.
give this to the clerk.
Great, thank you.
Our next speaker is Deborah Watson.
You're the last.
Hi, thank you all so much
best is-
for.
the best is
I'm
always
sorry.
last, right?
I'm Debbie. I thought you knew me by now. We're old friends, right? Anyways, I also, I thank all of you for the job you're doing. I know it's a tough job. You don't get many kudos in this job. I am a MAC representative also for mobile homes. I have definitely questions about what Jimmy and Linda just spoke on. They just seem to be one after another coming in on mobile home parks. And what I think we're all forgetting here, and the Mobile Home Fair Practice Commission, is that you guys need mobile home parks. Low-income rent on these buildings they're building is not low income, not by today's standard. We know what today's standard is. And my husband and I are upper middle class. We used to be way upper. We're moving right back down the food chain. But you guys need mobile parks. You have to keep them going. We had the most beautiful in the whole San Diego area. There was one other park, but it still couldn't compete with our beautiful Laguna Vista. Parks can be made better if you make the owners do their job. And I know you guys, again, don't have a lot to say about that, but you could. You could. I want to see a full commission of the Fair Practice Commission. We can't have a huge hearing with 2 or 3 people that get thrown a 450-page document they don't know anything about, I've learned about. I really would appreciate it. I think you guys put the board in place. That's my understanding. To get that commission in place. It's really important for us. How do they make a decision on an NOI that they know nothing about their volunteers? I'm just learning. I don't know. Help me here. I need some help. I need help. I want to help our people. And I appreciate anything you guys can do to help us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Watson. And the city of Oceanside owned the leasehold to Laguna Vista for how long?
I'm sorry?
The city of Oceanside actually had the leasehold, right? For quite a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was just the perfect place then.
Yes, it was.
It was beautiful.
Thank you. All right, we're finished with
No more
comments
speakers.
on, not on agendized items. We're on number 30, which is adoption of an ordinance amending Article 10, 10C, and 31 of the zoning ordinance to remove text related to projects exceeding base density from certain sections of the city's zoning ordinance. Mr. Mullen?
This is the second read and adoption of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Oceanside amending Articles 10, 10C, and 31 of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance to delete provisions related to projects exceeding base density ZA 220004.
There's a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 4-1. Sanchez, no.
Thank you. We are on to comments by council members. Anyone wishing to make a comment? Mr. Joyce.
I promise I'll be real
Councilmember Joyce.
fast. I attended the Housing Commission yesterday as well as the Library Board of Trustees. Library Board of Trustees, had to go in and out, so I didn't have a ton of information, but I'm sure you already know they're doing amazing work. The Housing Commission set up their ad hoc committee to set up their working plan for this upcoming year. Rental protections was a big part of what they talked about. They talked about a very robust set of work ahead within the housing world, and I'm thankful again for my council members for filling that commission so that they have the members to do so.
Thank anyone else? See no lights. Our next regularly scheduled meeting will be next Wednesday, so no break in between, February 1st at 3:30. And I'd like to adjourn with a moment of silence. Taina Seau Jr., Papa Seau, I used to call him Papa Seau. Born in American Samoa, passed away at 88 years old. He was the patriarch of the Seau family, legendary. He leaves his wife, Luisa, and his family, who I call Mama Seau. So just a wonderful, wonderful man. And let's have this moment of silence. Thank you. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.